evening, wrestling fans, and welcome to the Wrestle Talk Podcast. For the next 2 hours, we will bring you the latest pro wrestling news, in-depth analysis of all your favorite promotions from across the globe, and much, much more. We will also bring you exclusive interviews with the greatest professional wrestling personalities on the local, national, and international levels. If you want to follow the Wrestle Talk Podcast, check us out online at www.wrestletalkpodcast.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. And now, it's time for the reigning, defending, undisputed leader in pro wrestling podcast, the Wrestle Talk Podcast.
Good evening, wrestling fans. Welcome to another edition of the Wrestle Talk Podcast. For those of you that don't know me, my name is the one and only Road Dog, Chris Rodell, Big Sexy from the St. Louis area. We got a great night of action, or a great night of interviews. We're going to talk about a lot about what's going on in the wrestling world, but I can't do it alone. I got two co-hosts. They're waiting backstage. First of all, I want to introduce you to the legend in the St. Louis area, the one and only Mr. Luke Roberts. Luke, my brother, how are you?
Chris, I got to tell you right now, tonight is a night full of legends here on the Wrestle Talk Podcast. I mean, we got yourself, the voice of Dynamo Pro Wrestling. Many people consider you now to be the voice of CHWA. You've been all around the Midwest. You know about a thing or two about pro wrestling in the St. Louis area. And tonight, right here on the Wrestle Talk Podcast, we're going to have an exclusive sit-down interview with the one, the only, Jeremy Lightfoot, a man who, I'm going to tell you right now, I have seen Jeremy Lightfoot for the better part of 2+ decades. And
for a long time, he was like one of the youngest wrestlers in the St. Louis area.
Very true, Chris. Very true. And like I said, we're going to have an opportunity tonight to really sit down and kind of pick his brain going into his final stand, his final match, if you will, taking on Angelo Grimsley this coming Saturday at CHWA's May Day event in Edwardsville, Illinois. But we're not just going to look at May Day. We're going to look at the career of Jeremy Lightfoot. I mean, again, I was just looking back here, and just to give you a few of the names, if you're familiar with the St. Louis area, he's competed against the likes of Moondog Rover. He's competed against the likes of Crazy Kid Curry. He's competed against the likes of Shaft, who just won the Tony Costa Memorial Battle Royal this past weekend. Big Texan, AJ Williams, Bobby D, Phil E. Blunt, a name you and I are both very familiar with, Chris. So, I mean, when you sit down and look at it, that's just his time in the MMWA. We're going to have an opportunity to talk about his time in RCW. We're going to have time to talk about him being in Mid-America Extreme Pro Wrestling. We're going to have an opportunity to talk about him being in the HCWA up in Iowa. We're going to have an opportunity to talk to him about CHWA. We're going to talk to him about the idea of having his son preparing to follow with his footsteps in the sport. I mean, we are going to take a very in-depth look, as we always do here at the Wrestle Talk Podcast. We're going to take a very in-depth look at the life, the career, everything that is Jeremy Lightfoot right here on tonight's episode of the Wrestle Talk Podcast. And Chris, I'm going to tell you right now, this is going to be one of those episodes between yourself, myself, and Jeremy Lightfoot. We're looking nearly 3/4 of a century of professional wrestling knowledge here in the St. Louis area. This is going to be a monumental episode.
Are you calling me old? No, I'm just kidding.
I get you, my man. But you know something, Chris? We would be remiss if we didn't have our third co-host. We're a 3-man team here on the Wrestle Talk Podcast. And you know something? We're going to bring forth a man who brings all the newest, latest, greatest things in the world of professional wrestling. When you talk about all the latest updated things, he really takes an in-depth look not only at the WWE and AEW, but he looks at promotions like New Japan Pro Wrestling. Matter of fact, just a few weeks ago, he was at War Chambers, part of MLW, a man who's around this area, who's around the world of professional wrestling, and we'd be remiss if we didn't have him join us. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Gabriel Arsene joining us here on the Wrestle Talk Podcast this evening. Hey Chris. Look at it. He's got stuff on his wall.
There's a wall.
I don't feel as naked anymore compared to you guys. Check it out. We got the mic stuff and everything. I'm looking like a professional now.
Yeah.
That is true. That is very much true. Gabriel, how have you been doing, my friend? I mean, again, you've been a very busy man as of late as well. How are things in your part of the world?
Luke, thank you for asking. I've been doing great. Work has been very good. It's been steady. I feel like a winner. And, we recently just spent some time with some friends of mine yesterday playing some Mario Party, playing a bunch of Nintendo games and PlayStation. So catching up where I can, being an adult, but also making time for the kid in me, because young lion, old soul, got to make time for everything. But I'm just glad we're ready here to talk about pro wrestling. I can't wait to meet Jeremy Lightfoot. I almost said lightweight. Can guarantee you he is not a lightweight, folks. We're in the scheme of professional wrestling.
Hey, Chris, I gotta ask you here real quick, because we've got AJ Wallace here on the program here tonight. Chris, I gotta tell you, Gabriel's got to be very, very lucky that he's on the East Coast.
Right.
Because if not, Jeremy Lightfoot would find a way to chop him through the screen and leave a handprint that he could identify Jeremy Lightfoot for probably a year right here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. And I got to tell you, I'm all level with you. We're going to talk a little more about this in the interview tonight. Jeremy Lightfoot is one of those. I'm just going to level with you. Chris, you've been at ringside. We've had the opportunity the last couple events with CHWA. I'm going to tell you right now, Angelo Grimsley better be prepared, because he is going to be bruised up beyond all belief this coming Saturday. And we're going to get to experience who it's going to be. Jennifer Richmond here on the Wrestle Talk podcast this evening.
Mama Jen joining us.
We got lots of people that are going to be joining us here tonight.
She's one of the EMTs at medical professionals at CHWA shows. So I'm sure she'll be needed on Saturday. So it's gonna be a good show. It is going to be a great show.
He's definitely going to be needed if Lightweight's coming to me.
Lightfoot.
That's twice.
See,
that's twice, Gabriel. He's going to make it a point during our hour interview. He's going to find a way to chop you. I just know it's how it's going to be.
You guys ever seen Nightmare on Elm Street? The third movie where he forms in the TV? It's like, instead of that, it's the laptop, and he's just going to slam my face through the screen.
Jen is already saying that she's going to be very busy on Saturday, because not only you got that, you got Exodus and Crow too. So those are two people that don't like each other. But we'll talk about that later. But we would be remiss here if we didn't shout out our sponsors here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. Royal Mills Transportation, the CEO Dewan Mills, Nobleman's Barber Lounge in KCMO, Kincaid Arena at the Oak Park Mall, I-70 Sports Media with the one and only the maestro Jeremy Karp, Little Popeye Designs, who come to you with those Wrestle Talk podcast tumblers, and the FWWC, the world's premier fantasy wrestling group. Let me tell you that's great. That's a great group of sponsors.
That is true, Chris. And like I said, they've all helped us, just like the Wrestle Talk podcast family. They've done everything they can to help us go 480 plus episodes here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. And as we talked about here the last couple weeks, we've talked about the idea of Wrestle Talk podcast on the way to that magic episode of 500. And I'm going to tell you right now, I can't let any secrets out yet, but I'm going to tell you right now, episode 500, you need to tell your friends, family, cousins, neighbors, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, you name it. You need to let people know episode 500 is going to be monumental. That's my word of the day, monumental here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. But guys,
I'm trying to catch up on some comments here real quick. We got Doc in the house. Shouting us out. We got AJ Wallace again. He happened. I guess he was at one time when Playboy wrestled Lightfoot. So we'll talk about that later. And the one Jay Hollywood. Yeah.
Jay Hollywood. All right.
I'm gonna try to get out there, but that's show day, so we'll see what we can do. But it's good to hear from our friend Jay Hollywood.
You know something too, Chris? I'm gonna level with you. I know we got a lot of events going on here in the St. Louis area, but I'm gonna flat out level with you. I've even looked at the idea of trying to see what we can do, because there are gonna be so many names at FanFest, and from what I'm hearing, tickets are in very high demand. And I've heard right now that tickets, I mean, they're going at a record pace. They're even going faster than FanFest 1. And again, you're going to have an opportunity this year. The Bill After one-man show is going to take place. They're going to have the Hall of Fame inductions here in St. Louis. They're going to have a great wrestling event and more legends than I think any area I've ever seen. I think the last time I heard they were pushing, I think it's either 55 or 60 legends going to be in St. Louis this weekend as a part of FanFest 2 with SICW at the Aviator Hotel. If you haven't bought your tickets, SICW.org. You can also get them on social media. Also, as a reminder, if you need to buy your CHWA tickets, you can make it a point to buy those through through their Facebook account.
They're available at the door, so yes. So
that is true. Like I said, you can't go wrong with either of those great events. And I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to go wrong catching Jeremy Lightfoot in the ring this coming Saturday. We've got a title unification match. We've got all sorts of things going on. And speaking of things that are going on, let's go ahead, gentlemen, as we do each and every week. And Chris, I know you're ready. And hopefully,
I'm ready. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've had to press this play button. So
I know. Well, like I say, ladies and gentlemen, at this point in time, as we do each and every week here on the Wrestle Talk podcast, to pay homage to the greatest country in the world, and that's America. Also to pay a tribute to all those great fighting men and women who protect us each and every week right here so we can do what we do. If you please, place your hands over your hearts, remove your hats as we pay homage to the greatest country in the world, that being the good old United States of America.
Doesn't it just bring a tear to your eye, Road Dogg?
A tear to your eye and blood to your ears. One of that's what it does. We got just in that time. I looked down. We got all kinds of great stuff. Apparently, yes, Bob Orton is going into the Hall of Fame, so I believe the whole Orton family is going to be at the SICW Fan Fest. Ben's here in the house. Our good friend Steven's in the house. So it's going to be a great weekend of wrestling here in the St. Louis area.
Everybody's here for the show tonight, guys. Let's not let them down. I think everybody's excited for some SICW. They want to see Jeremy. They're ready to hear us talk about some pro wrestling. So, do we have any other bases we had to cover? We're ready to jump into it.
No, I think we just need to jump in because we got several good high spots. The high spots that came in are really good. They're diverse, and a lot of things I want to get some information, some just how people feel. How people feel about it. So you want to go ahead and let's go ahead and load up DJ Money and we'll go ahead and hit those high spots.
Mic check. Yeah. All right. Wrestle Talk Podcast. DJ Money. Yeah. Let's go. Welcome to High Spots, where we pop news like clear chops. We talk shop, coming through the screens of a laptop and non-stop like a running speakers of blacktop. We hit hard like chair shots and backdrops, like a clock flash, look like a barely fly. Now that's on. We up to speed while they stay slow. Wrestle Talk Podcast. Now they know we about to start the show.
DJ Money leading us in with the high spots. There's been a lot of things that are happening. We got the Queen and King of the Ring coming around the corner. We've got, AEW's got double or nothing. Or is that the next pay-per-view?
You're right, Chris. Double or nothing. We got a lot of great stuff to talk about there. We got a lot of great stuff talking about the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. And I've heard, and before we even get to the first question, I've heard a rumor about this, and we didn't get a chance to throw it into the high spots questions. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of jump ahead here just a little bit. I've heard from a very good, reliable source in the media that current reigning NWA World Champion EC3 is going to be defending the NWA World Heavyweight Championship for All Japan Pro Wrestling when he makes his debut there. Gentlemen, I got to ask you right now, before we even throw the first question of the high spots up here, what are your thoughts about EC3 taking a prestigious title like the NWA World Heavyweight Championship to All Japan Pro Wrestling? Gabriel?
Yeah, Gabe's more into the Japan scene than I am, so
I'm definitely well, thank you guys for letting me take the lead on this one. For starters, not just that, I just want to throw this out there. My new Japan Pro Wrestling Strong champion, Gabe Kidd, is actually going to be challenging for the GHC championship soon in All Japan Pro Wrestling. So we got a lot going on, or excuse me, Pro Wrestling Noah, but we got a lot going on in the Japanese scene here. EC3 showing up in All Japan, though, I honestly think that's the best way to get that, because it really makes me feel like the classic NWA days. You know, when you were world champion, that meant you were defending it around the world. You know, you were going everywhere. It didn't stop anybody. You know, you could be in Europe, you could be in Japan, you could go to Australia, come back to the States, go to South America. It didn't matter. You know, vacay in Puerto Rico for a little bit, defending it. So I like that they are not only, you know, establishing that kind of prestige, that expected kind of, I don't know what the word you guys would be, credit. I don't know what you would want to call that, but to really pull that back is nice to see, especially with the NWA. And it's just nice to see the Forbidden Door get kicked open again. You know, like I feel like we're still kind of spoiled by it, but wrestling can surprise us. And yes. I'm glad EC3 is going to be the one to do that. And also, I'm just glad to see his reign going this far. You know, I genuinely think he deserves that belt. I think he's doing a lot to keep NWA on the map because I love hearing about them. I follow a couple of guys, JR Kratos on Instagram. So I like to hear about it. And so when I hear news like this, Luke, I'm excited. If I could just put it as a one-word answer, I'm excited. But
well, I can tell you right now, as I'm looking at it too, Gabriel, again, giving credibility. And again, that's one of the things I find really interesting. A lot of people talk trash about Billy Corgan and the NWA. But I'm going to tell you right now, the idea of putting that championship in places like All Elite Wrestling back in the day, New Japan Pro Wrestling, All Japan Pro Wrestling, it's giving an opportunity to showcase one of the most prestigious belts in the world. Yeah, and a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, it's not the title back of the 70s and 80s. And you're right. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to reestablish the credibility and the lineage. I mean, you go back to like Orville Brown in the back in the 40s and 50s, and John Haas joining us here tonight. Haas is in the house here. He heard what's going on here tonight. And Gabe, yes, Gabe is rather excitable. But you know, when you're talking about pro wrestling, we're all that way. And I got to tell you, I agree with you, Gabe.
Start flagging, all right? I like pro wrestling. People say they like pro wrestling. Ladies and gentlemen, I like pro wrestling.
That is true. Very much true. Well, right now, Chris, I got to ask you here. I know you don't follow as much in the world of Japanese wrestling, but I know you do follow the NWA. And yes. I got to ask you, for seeing the championship, that NWA title going to Japan to be defended, I mean, that's got to resonate with you here a little bit. Yeah,
I mean, it harkens back to the days when, you know, the NWA champion went all around the world. Ric Flair went all around the world. I mean, yes, it's not the same as it was because it's owned by a different person now. But I mean, you still got that lineage. I mean, it's going to be a good thing. It's going to be a good thing for them.
I agree with you,
Sorry,
Gabe. No problem. Like I said,
lineage is the word for it. I mean, yeah, it's a different generation, but they're still hearkening back to old school NWA stuff. I mean, didn't Flair defend the OG against Inoki?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe so.
I was like, how's that any different? Okay, like yeah, it's the modern NWA and it's the modern All Japan, but like, shouldn't we be happy as a collective that wrestling gets to thrive like this? That we're 40 years later still doing this sort of thing in a good way, you know, not in like being dated and we're repeating ourselves over and over.
Exactly.
But to throw it back to you.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, you know what? Let's get into the official high spot segment now. I'm going to go ahead and fire up this little thing that we call the randomizer. Let's see if it's actually going to work today because last time I was on, and even though it's been a while, it was acting up a little bit. So let's see.
All right, let's see. Ooh. This is a good question right here.
At the Ring of Honor taping in Edmonton on May 8th, a fan was ejected for harassing Sky Blue, and it was other female wrestlers during the match. What is the line fans should not cross?
Well,
Luke, you've been in the business the longest. You want to go
I'm
ahead and say?
I'm gonna jump on my soapbox here right now. I understand in the world of professional wrestling. I've been around professional wrestling now for 37 years. Doesn't look like it. Again, you look at me, it may not necessarily, you might not believe I've been around wrestling for as long as I have. But one thing I got to say is this: professional wrestling, and I'm not going to go with the sports entertainment stuff. I'm going to talk about pro wrestling. Pro wrestling is the opportunity to suspend your disbelief. The idea of where you can go out there and see people, both men and women, compete inside the squared circle, the 20 by 20 ring, and be able to compete. But from what I've seen as of late, people are pushing the line. You know, one of the things, and Chris, you and I had an opportunity. We've had to experience, and I don't think a lot of people have ever heard this story. I know Gabe hasn't. I remember the first night that you were a part of Dynamo Pro Wrestling. Now here's Chris Rodell, a man who's been around the St. Louis scene for a number of years. We're at the commentator's table. We're at ringside. And we had a man jump, and I have to say, literally, this man might have had a 36-inch vertical. I mean, he flat-footed jumped the guardrail. And Chris looked at me and kind of gave me a look like, what are we going to do? And our reply was, we got to stop him. And that's kind of how the way things were. By the time we managed to stand in the way, about the time security came in, we got to take care of things. And Chris and I, for our own well-being and safety, were okay. But the point I'm looking at is this. There's a line. When you're inside the squared circle, you are competing. You are going out there and doing what you need to do as a professional wrestler. From what I've read and from what I've seen, this wasn't even a, how you say, oh, this was happening over the course of a night. No. I heard within minutes, within seconds, that the official and security were at the rail and this guy was gone. I'm going to tell you right now, anybody that gets inside that ring has my respect. They should have the fans' respect as well as the respect of those in the locker room. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're going to go out there, you're going to be disrespectful, you're going to call names, you're going to put people down, you're going to do everything that you can. And again, AJ, bring this up here. I know she's a heel. She doesn't deserve to be insulted by an idiotic fan like that. Good for her in AEW for not allowing that guy in the arena. I'm going to tell you right now, there's a line. There's a respect factor. And if you can't handle that, then I'm sorry to say you don't need to be at an event. And I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to you, Chris, because I know you've got some thoughts on this as well.
Well, back in the old days, he probably would have been brought back to introduce to the promoter. You know what I mean? I mean, technically, I guess you can't really do that anymore nowadays because but yeah, Sky Blue is a very beautiful young lady. I mean, but she does not deserve to be talked down to in the wrestling world. I mean, it's disgusting that a fan could even think about saying that. Apparently, he had a run-in with Saraya earlier in the night. That's why they had their eyes on him. So,
well, I wanted to mention, I think a bunch of fans in the audience pointed out that he had a kid with him, and it's like,
yeah, that's like
even in front of your children. Like, come on, man.
That's
I know
even,
it's AEW and it's TV 14, but like, come on, man.
That's even worse. That's what you're like teaching your kids to do. You know that there's nothing right in this whole entire thing.
And Chris, you were right on point with that in the idea of where there's a line. And again, props to AEW for stepping up and not letting this kind of thing take place inside their event. And again, only time will tell what's going on. But again, let the wrestlers do what they're supposed to do. And if you want to go out there and you want to kind of think that you're big and bad, that you can say what you want to say, I mean, again, I totally get it. But you got to understand that you need to be respectful of everyone that steps inside those ropes and steps inside the squared circle, because they're going out there and they're putting themselves on the line for you each and every time they lace up their boots and they get in the ring.
I mean, they could be injured. You know, it's entertainment for you, but it's their career. I mean, it's just do better. Just do better, people, and it just in general, just do better, people.
Well, and like to add off of that, you two are professionals. You've actually, you're looking at this from these people in the locker room. That's the thing. And it's like, that's the last thing you want to do is like, have them come back and be like, hey, this guy was harassing me the whole time. Like, I'm trying to do my job, dude. And I can imagine that gets frustrating for you guys. That's like bad for, what's the word I'm looking for? Morale.
Yeah. I've known several promotions that like if a wrestler is being harassed by a fan, that it's taken care of and they're escorted out. So it's not just AEW that does it.
I can't help but think of that old footage of Paul Heyman where he came out and gave the dude his money and told him to get the fuck out. I can't imagine like feeling we all want that to happen in that scenario, even if it's not doable every time. But more to my point, that you guys know this from a professional perspective. I'm still new to the business. I'm still new, as far as like wrestling goes. But from a fan perspective, as somebody who loves wrestling, don't make it embarrassing for us. You're making us being wrestlers. We don't like being associated because the fans that do behave and that are doing their job as a fan, which is responding to what the wrestlers are doing the appropriate way, we don't like these guys either. It's like we're screwed on both ends. The wrestlers hate it, and the other wrestlers wrestling fans think they're obnoxious. So
yeah, just do better, fans. Do better.
Yes, those are the words. The two words, folks. Do better. That's
so
it.
Let's catch up on some of the comments here. We got Jim Harris Sr. in the house. He's got some whole. He's been busy here lately. He was at MMWA this past weekend for the Tony Costa Memorial Battle Royal. Let's see what else we got. Haas says kids act the way adults teach them to, and that's true. I mean, I believe that.
Kids are sponges, man. They absorb everything, whether you know it or not.
Oh, they're sponges. They're sponges to that. I don't know how old the kid was, but yeah, it's like David's in the house.
Sick one, still current FWWC Tag Team Champion. You think you can take the belt off him, folks? But I have a pleasure having you on the show, David.
Doctor of Decadence is in the house.
Junkies for Fame in the house. 2 thumbs up.
I've watched
strokes happen, broken bones.
Yep.
Stephen Hopple being, he knows this sort of thing.
Very true. Very true. And like I said, totally agree 100% here. This is a hot discussion here. And again, to give you an idea, if you've got questions, thoughts, comments, make sure to share them in the chat. Because we're going to make sure we can get as many people involved with the Wrestle Talk podcast as we can, because you guys are what makes us go each and every week. Chris, they don't want to hear us anymore. Hit that randomizer again. Let's get another question up here for the high spot.
Hashtag Let's Talk Wrestling, folks.
All right, let's see. Ooh, King and Queen of the Ring. Of the remaining competitors, who are your choices for Queen and King of the Ring? I'm going to say this right now. Gabe, I know you talk about New Japan, you talk about MLW, you talk about all these great promotions, but I got to ask you, King and Queen of the Ring, we're only a few days away from it. Any thoughts as to who's going to walk out King and Queen of the Ring?
I'm glad you asked. Does anybody have an immediate of the standings?
I actually do. There are 6 competitors, 2 from Raw because they did their quarterfinals. So it's Gunther and Jey Uso for Raw, Randy Orton, Carmelo Hayes, LA Knight, and Tama Tonga on the SmackDown side. It's going to be Orton versus Carmelo and LA Knight versus Tama Tonga. So those are the men competitors.
Wait, you said who's going to be with Tama Tonga?
LA Knight versus Tama Tonga.
And then Hayes and who?
Orton. Randy Orton.
You know something, guys? I'm going to throw this out here right now, and I'm going to put my pick out there, and you're going to be shocked. On the one side, I see Tama Tonga advancing. I really do. I love LA Knight, but when it comes down to it, I think Tama Tonga advances. And I'm going to go for the upset of all upsets. I see Carmelo Hayes defeating the Viper and moving on to the semifinals of SmackDown. And I'm going to tell you right now, to me, the way I see it, a finals, and a lot of people are going to start talking a lot of stuff here. I disagree with you, Haas.
I'm
I was going to say,
Gunther,
explain yourself, Luke. Why do you think it's going to be different?
I think it's going to be different for this reason. Gunther, the man's on a roll. You're not going to stop him. He's going to the finals. I love main event Jey Uso, but Gunther is just too much for him.
I can see that. Going
on the other side, I'm going to see it right now. Carmelo Hayes.
So you think it's in Saudi? It's going to be Gunther versus Carmelo Hayes?
I very much think so, because right now, when he first got there, he made it a point to say that he was going to step up against the top tier talent. And it seems like as of late, he doesn't care who he has to wrestle. He wants to be at that top tier. He wants to be at that top level. You're going to be at that top level. You need to be top level talent. And I'm going to say it right now. We are going to see walking out of Saudi Arabia, the king of the ring is going to be Gunther.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a bold prediction, Roberts.
That's who I picked going into it too. Was Gunther was going to win, but then I saw the way the matchups are going now. I kind of see
think it's going to go Tonga and Jay, right?
Yeah, but then are you blowing that match to? I don't know. I actually don't know. I mean, I'm going to say Jey Uso is going to win it all, but
I think that's what I was going to say. It was going to come down to, but Rodell, finish your thoughts, and I'll elaborate.
I think whoever comes out of the Raw side of the bracket is going to win the King of the Ring tournament. So just I
could agree, but it's going to be Gunther all the way. Now let's look at the women's side.
Okay, so the women, Lyra Valkyrie and Io Sky are the two remaining from Raw. The matches this week on SmackDown are Nia Jax versus Jade Cargill and
I'm excited for that match.
Bianca Belair and Tiffany Stratton. It's Tiffy time. I think I'm predicting it's going to probably be Lyra versus Tiffany Stratton in the finals, and I think Tiffany Stratton's winning Queen of the Ring because I think Jade and Bianca are going to get attacked by members of tag teams like Chelsea Green and Piper Niven and Candice and Indy. So we'll have some kind of a women's tag match, but I think it's going to be Tiffany Stratton.
Gabe, your thoughts?
If there ever were a platform to give an up-and-coming talent like a Jade Cargill, like a Tiffany Stratton, like a Lyra, is it Lyra or Lyra?
Lyra Valkyrie.
Like a Lyra Valkyrie. Queen of the Ring under Triple H is a beautiful way to do it. And while Haas, I appreciate the sentiment, she's still tag champs with Bianca. We'll see where this match with Nia has her in the eyes of the fans. But Gabrielle Arsene is going to be all in with Rodell because it is indeed Tiffy time.
It's Tiffy time.
WWE. She is your
Get ready, guys. I'm going to keep it real simple.
Oh, great. Luke's going to come in here with something controversial because Luke likes.
I'm done.
Oh, you think Tiffany too?
I'm done.
Right, see, look,
it's Tiffy time for Queen of the Ring.
What time it is? See, that's how you know, fans. It's Tiffy time, whether you like it or not.
I don't think we've ever had three people on a panel here ever agree with
Chris. You got a level. We had the thought. Gabriel just agreed with us. That's what it is. Yeah. So let's go ahead and move right along here. As Gabriel is now completely vanished off the screen, let's go ahead and move on to our next question. Again, it's a reminder to hashtag Let's Talk Wrestling, hashtag WTP, hashtag Jeremy Lightfoot. He's going to be on the program here in just a few moments talking about all things pro wrestling, his career, his matches coming Saturday, and so much more. We got plenty more still to come here. But right now, we got another High Spots question. So let's hit that randomizer and see what's next.
Did Gabe Kidd take his comments about WWE and AEW too far? And just so I can give you the official quote, he has said, "You like theater? Go and watch WWE. If you're a fat nerd who can't talk to girls, go and watch AEW. If you want to watch the real stuff, New Japan Pro Wrestling, that's where it's at." So, Gabe, being this is in New Japan, I'm gonna let you start off because I know you are the most familiar with Mr. Kidd.
Oh, you guys have no idea. Tiny backstory a bit. This dude was probably the lone rep for me feeling like there were Gabriels in pro wrestling. Because this was at the time that Justin Gabriel was going under PJ. Was it PJ Black? The Darewolf?
Yeah, something like that.
I knew him back as Gabriel Kidd in WCPW. So I feel very strongly about this wrestler. So when I say, can we just have like a bias in asterisk above me real quick? Because for me, no. I don't think he burned any bridges. I think he took a pot shot where he needed to do because Gabe Kidd, for starters, won the belt. So I think like we're talking with champ right now. Okay, are we going to refute this man? I don't think so because he's going to clobber you with that belt and make me regret it.
I also just saw an interview today that he said if AEW wants him to be a part of the Forbidden Door, he's going to have to drop a big old sack of cash.
That's it. That's it, bro. He's a madman. You not fucking with him? No, but in all seriousness, no. I think talent should be allowed to take shots where necessary. For starters, he's a heel. Like if people are really acting like, oh, he's not conducting himself under locker room etiquette. It's like he's a bad guy. He doesn't give a shit. He tore up the ring. Like, are you kidding me? He throws chairs in the audience. You think this isn't WWE level heel where he's like, oh, I called this guy an idiot. He goes, well, fuck you. Sorry, we're on video.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. We're not PG here, but
also, I just want to mention the fact that it's like, where's the lie? You know, I'm Bobby Fish in this right now. Where's the lie though? And this is coming from an AEW fan.
Are you calling all AEW fans fat nerds or whatever he said?
I'm not calling all AEW fans fat nerds who can't talk to girls. I'm just asking for any evidence to the contrary.
I'm not saying it, but prove me wrong.
I figured you were going there, Chris. Hold up, Gabriel. I'm going to step in here because I'm going to represent the AEW side of this discussion. You know something? Something to a certain degree happened at the last AEW pay-per-view, Dynasty. When you have Tony Storm talking about Cody Rhodes and Triple H. I agree with you in the fact that when it comes down to it, there's a right time and a right place for everything in the world. It doesn't matter whether it's professional wrestling, your day job, your family, whatever. There's always a right place and a right time to say something, and there's a wrong place and a wrong time to say something. Now, I'm going to level with you right now, and I know he's in the green room, and I'm going to make sure that he's aware that you called Jeremy Lightfoot, Jeremy Lightweight a little bit ago. So just so he can be aware that when he comes on the program here, that he's going to let you know about it. But the fact is this. Do I agree with you? Yes. Gabriel Kidd did a great thing. But the thing is, you've got to watch what you do. If you overuse it, people start looking at it in a completely different perspective. But to get the point across, I agree with what's here. And no, Carp, I didn't use any language. That's specifically Gabriel Arsene. You can send all those hashtags, please stop Arsene, and we'll be good to go. Chris, your thoughts.
And Haas is not wrong. We do use the Iron Sheik drop on here every so often. But yeah, I mean, hey, if you're a heel, I mean, you got to get yourself over. I mean, there's a line that you don't cross, but I mean, as CM Punk has famously said, tell me when I'm telling lies. I mean,
well,
you know something, Chris?
Well, I was going to say, can I throw this to you?
Okay, go ahead.
I was going to ask, have we expected anything less from other companies, though? I feel like New Japan is above throwing shade, but let's not pretend like, you know, the E or AEW or hell, even smaller promotions haven't thrown shade at New Japan's direction. It's like it's a breath of fresh air for me personally to see this dude on a local television show talking that. You know, it feels genuine. I feel like I'm watching old school days. You know, it's just through a smartphone instead of the tube TVs where, you know, you would hear, because I would imagine this conversation came up a lot back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Assad, welcome to the show, man. Shout out to his daughter Rebecca. at the Paseo High School.
And again,
class.
Assad bringing it up here tonight, guys. Again, shout out to the whole Assad family. Shout out to Rebecca for graduating class of 2024. Had a lot of great stuff here. I know there's still plenty more great randomizer questions here. Just to give you an idea, we are going to have Jeremy Lightfoot on the program here in just a couple minutes. I think we've got time for one more question before we bring Jeremy Lightfoot here on the program. So let's go ahead. Let's hit that randomizer one more time, and let's get to our final high spots question here tonight. All right, our final question. Ooh.
Will Cody become Grand Slam champion and King and Queen of the Ring? God, I hope not.
You want to take the start of your road talk?
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Luke. Luke, your opinion.
I'm actually gonna defer this back to my broadcast colleague Chris Rodell because I'm a level with you. I don't recall hearing anything about the U.S. title being on the line. And I want to make sure before we go any farther on this, I want to make sure that we are giving our fans the appropriate information. So I'm going to say what, since Chris brought up the question, I'm going to go ahead and make sure our media team's getting ready to rock and roll. Our team, go ahead, give us your thoughts. I'm going to go ahead and talk with our media team here, and we're going to see what we can do.
Let's fact check this, boys. But I wanted to mention he didn't just get the question out; he got the answer out.
Yeah,
very clear. His thoughts on the match.
And I did look. It looks like it's apparently it says champion versus champion match, but it doesn't say that both belts are on the line. So I guess we'll just have to we'll just have to see, because I think they're doing some kind of a contract signing this week, because I believe that's where I got that picture from.
So we'll get the details as they surface. But to answer the question as the information we know present, hypothetically, do I think Cody will become a Grand Slam champion at King and Queen of the Ring? No. The only reason, folks, is because I feel like Logan is doing a good job as U.S. champion. That taking the belt off of him doesn't work, and I still think it's too soon to give him the WWE championship. If you were going to give him that, and you wanted to condition fans to sort of accept the idea that maybe he will become WWE champion, I feel like this is more them testing the waters, seeing if people are kind of like, oh, maybe they'll like it, maybe they won't. We'll see the reaction. We'll test it out when we're doing one of our overseas shows, right?
Let's just be honest. SummerSlam's in Cleveland. Logan Paul's going to be part of SummerSlam. He's from Cleveland, so I mean,
but like, what does giving him the WWE championship before that do for him?
Oh, he's not winning the belt. No, if it's a title for title match, it's going to end in the disqualification. It's going to end in a no contest.
But to throw this out to the fans who might think that this is a bad thing, because heaven forbid a scripted show have a predetermined ending that fans can probably figure out. Pro wrestling, guys, it's crazy. But am I wrong? But what happened the last time we had a match with Logan that we all knew he wasn't going to win, but hell, the result was still really worth it? Now you add Cody Rhodes to the mix, and you at least throw in the additional tension of, like, maybe they'll tease it, over the next couple months. How are they going to film the feud? Like, how are we going to hear about this? What potential is there for this match to draw? Tell me you're not going to watch it.
That is true, and I'm just gonna say it right here, Gabe. And again, I want to give a shout out, and this is very rare for me. I'm kind of pulling back the curtain a little bit. I want to give a shout out to my wife, and here's why. She has openly said that if Logan Paul wins the WWE Undisputed Unified Championship, that she believes that there's going to be a massive change in the dynamic of professional wrestling. She thinks it's going to be in the negative. I really personally don't want to see it one way or the other. I think right now the American Nightmare has a ton of momentum, and even though you've got SummerSlam coming up, even though it's in his hometown, I'm going to love you right now. I would rather be seeing Cody versus The Miz than Cody versus Logan Paul at SummerSlam. Chris, final thoughts on this question, and then we're going to get ready because I know for a fact that Jeremy Lightfoot's in the house, and we're going to get things rolling here in just a few moments. Chris, your final thoughts on this question.
I think it's just the Saudi show is it's kind of a throwaway show, but with the exception of the King and Queen of the Ring, it's just a way for the WWE to make a boatload of cash. I mean, a boatload of cash.
I agree with you, Chris.
Well, I want to play devil's advocate here because we all know it's a throwaway show. So if it is a throwaway show, why not put on the match that we all know nobody wants to see anywhere else?
No, I mean, I'm not saying.
I'm trying to meet in the middle here, and I don't mean to cut you off, Rodell. Roberts, you don't like the idea of this match. So what's the better platform than to put it on a show that it's like, okay, they're basically confirming to us that everything's fine. This is just for a cash grab and something to pop it. This is a glorified house show.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's not, I'm not saying it's a match I don't want to see. It's not that. It's gonna draw. I mean, it's gonna be good because I mean, Logan Paul. I don't think Logan Paul's had a bad match.
Wow. And Chris, Gabe. Only thing that we're going to be able to say right now is this: when we look at Memorial Day weekend, you got to look at it from a perspective that this is going to be a great weekend of professional wrestling action. When you're talking about King and Queen of the Ring, or you talk about the idea of Double or Nothing, it's going to be a great weekend of pro wrestling action. And you know what? I was just made aware. Jeremy Lightfoot is just about ready to come on the program here. We're going to talk all things Lightfoot here tonight. But before we do, let's go ahead here. And a lot of people are going to say that in television terms, this is going to be an opportunity for us to make sure that we have that carryover rating. You can tell your friends, you can tell your family, get everybody watching the media because in just a couple of moments, Jeremy Lightfoot's going to be here on the program. But before we do, let's go ahead and thank our great sponsors who keep the Wrestle Talk podcast going each and every week. I want to thank Royal Mills Transportation, our good friend, the CEO, Jawan Mills, Nobleman's Barber Lounge in Kansas City. If you want a great haircut, go check out Nobleman's Barber Lounge. Kincaid Arcade at the Oak Park Mall. Our great friends over at I-70 Sports Media. You can check out the Maestro Jeremy Carpin Roundabout Sports every Wednesday night. Little Popeye Designs, home of that great Wrestle Talk podcast tumbler, which you can order. Just get a hold of one of the Wrestle Talk podcast members. We'll get you set up with that. And the FWWC, the world's premier fantasy wrestling group, which you can catch, I do believe, Mr. Arsene, every Thursday evening. Is that correct? Thursday evening, 7 p.m., 7:30 p.m.?
7:30 p.m. and I believe it's 8 p.m. or 8:30. Would that be Eastern Standard?
Whoa! The CEO got suspended.
Correct. It's a whole thing. I believe Mata served him papers. Had a bit of an issue. He tried to attack him on his own property, and I don't know how the CEO think that would have worked. He came to a guy's house with a sledgehammer. I mean,
I mean, we've seen it.
Have been made, man.
I was gonna say we've seen it before. I believe, if I remember my WWE lore, that Triple H showed up at Randy Orton's house with a sledgehammer, if I'm not mistaken. And I mean, people show up at people's houses. I mean, if you don't want to smoke, don't blow. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
you can hear more about it on the Wrestle Talk or the FWWC tonight, folks. That's on Thursdays. Fantasy Wrestling. Always be sure to check it out. But Luke, talking over you.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we had the opportunity to have this gentleman on in the past, and tonight we're going to get an opportunity just days away from his final matchup. And again, I said earlier on, I want to kind of pull back the curtain here for just a second. The first time I had an opportunity to meet this man was in the late 1990s. And surprisingly enough, the first man that ever got our guest tonight and I in the same place to talk with one another was a man that you and I know both very well, Mr. Rodell, that being Mr. GQ. That was the first time I had an opportunity at the historic South Broadway Athletic Club many, many years ago, back in the late 1990s, to meet our guest this evening. And since that point in time, I have had the opportunity to be in countless locker rooms with him. I've had the opportunity to see him travel the Midwest. I've seen him compete against the who's who of professional wrestlers in the St. Louis area throughout his long career. And when I had the opportunity to talk to tonight's guest, the one and only Jeremy Lightfoot, I thought to myself, the last time he was on the program, we got to just scratch the surface. But tonight, the Wrestle Talk podcast family has spoken. And tonight, we are going to have an in-depth interview showcasing the career, and as the title slide said, the legacy of this man. You see it right here on the screen. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome back to the Wrestle Talk podcast a man who has basically been a fixture of the professional wrestling scene for the better part of 2 decades. And this Saturday night at May Day will be the final time, win, lose, or draw, that he steps inside the squared circle. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring back on to the Wrestle Talk podcast, and let's go ahead and get him some music so we can get him pumped up and get the true man behind the paint, the man behind the wrestling boots. Ladies and gentlemen, Wrestle Talk podcast family, please welcome back to the program, the one and only Jeremy Lightfoot.
Native Nightmare, how's it going, Jeremy?
Hey, Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing
Luke, good to
good.
see you. Hey, Gabriel, I just want you to listen, open your ears up really wide.
Oh,
Okay?
Can I say for the record, I'm happy I'm retired. But no, Jeremy, as we talked about before, first of all, I want to welcome you back to the Wrestle Talk podcast. And tonight,
Thank you for having me.
this is all about Jeremy Lightfoot. And I'm going to tell you right now, here is a man who has competed against a who's who. And I'm going to tell you right now, doing my research, and Chris and I actually spent, what was it, Chris, about an hour and a half here tonight?
we lost.
That's all right. That's all right. I know he's listening back in the green room. We can get it taken care of here. But right here in my hand, and we're going to get the Native Nightmare back here in just a minute on the program. But if we look at it right here, this right here in my hand is a list of the various competitors that Jeremy Lightfoot has competed against. And we're going to have an opportunity to look at this here tonight. We're going to get an opportunity to look at 20 plus years of stepping inside the famed squared circle. And Jeremy, I want to start off. I know it's a very standard question, but I think it would be remiss if we didn't start off. What made you decide? And
Sorry,
I know that you've been.
My phone keeps acting up, so I hear you. It's just I got to keep moving stuff so go ahead with the question.
Oh, no problem. Basically, what has motivated you to stay inside the squared circle as long as you have? A lot of wrestlers, they might do a few months, they might do a few years. And you know what? He'll be back here in just a moment. But you know, guys, and Chris, you can know this very well. Many wrestlers don't stay around for a few months. No. Jeremy has stayed around for a number of years. And when he comes back, the question I want to pose to him is what's motivated him to stay inside the squared circle so long? I mean, that's kind of how we're looking at here. And again, for those that are tuning in, we will have the Native Nightmare here. And again, we got a lot of people that know a lot about Jeremy Lightfoot. And Chris, I want you to make sure we bring this back up here in just a minute when we get the Native Nightmare back on the program here. And Gabriel, just to give you a fair bit of warning, that chop, that's going to be the first probably of several tonight because of what you called our guest earlier on here this evening.
I've got trauma. I've got trauma from the sound.
I kind of want to make it a point now to make my first ever chop in wrestling to be that now. I feel like that's the initiation now. That's the test. if if I survive it and my sternum doesn't crack, they're like, all right, he's cut for the business.
Sternum crack, nothing. Your lungs will cave in. Jeremy, here's my question. I know you just got back here on the program. What has motivated you to stay in professional wrestling for as long as you have?
Can you hear me all right? I had to switch to my laptop.
We're all right, Jeremy. Like I said, we've got you here in program. What has motivated you to keep going at such a high level for so long?
Can you hear us? Okay.
It's the fans. That's been it. Now I've got a echo here. I am not tech savvy.
Neither am I.
Well, Jeremy, I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to throw another statement out here. You've had the opportunity to be in the ring with some of the greats, and I have to ask you. The first time I saw you, I had an opportunity to see you at the South Broadway Athletic Club as a part of the MMWA. And I got to ask you, you know the reputation of South Broadway. What was it like to you, knowing the reputation of South Broadway, to be in such a class with the likes of a Johnny Courageous, of a Philly Blunt, of a Brandon Espinoza, and that level of wrestler at South Broadway so early in your career?
I'm going to try to answer that because I'm like I said, I'm getting a delay, so I'm hearing you on top of you, and now I'm hearing me on top of me.
All right. As I said, going into the career as early as you have, what was it like to compete at South Broadway with the likes of a Philly Blunt, of a Brandon Espinoza, of a AJ Williams, of a Johnny Courageous? What was it like to step in the ring with that level of competition so early in your career?
Okay. Now I figured out how to do this and let the question do its thing. Back then, the talent was amazing. It was incredible. It was almost like the Attitude Era of St. Louis. The names were endless, and the talent was just immaculate. All those names, and there was so many left out. I mean, there was not a bad night at the office, no matter who you were wrestling or who you were performing in front of or what company you were working for.
Well, I agree with you 100% there, Jeremy. And again, when you look at some of the names that you talked about, I mean, again, one that consistently pops up, and I got to level with you. I saw a picture, and it's been really floating around the internet the last couple of days, of a man that you're very familiar with, that being one Crazy Kid Curry. I know that you've had several run-ins with him over the course of your career, and there have been a few instances where he's kind of been a bloody mess. So I got to ask, when you were wrestling him, that really struck a lot of people as a big-time feud for you. Can you share with the viewers of the program what it's like, what it was like to wrestle somebody like Crazy Kid Curry?
Do you want the shoot answer or the work answer?
You tell us whatever you want. This is Jeremy Lightfoot time. You tell us however you want to be, my friend.
We can go into both.
Work answer, I'm going to say that, man, it was a tough competition. It was, hard fought, BS, yada, yada, yada. Luke, I got an idea. I'm going to shut this off. Give me 2 minutes. I'm going to take the phone outside, be closer to the router. Maybe I'll be able to hear you better.
Okay.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead here. And again, this is the joys of the Wrestle Talk podcast. Technology is great when it cooperates. We're going to have, again, we've got the Native Nightmare, Jeremy Lightfoot, here on the program. Hopefully we can get this taken care of here. And we're going to go ahead here, and he's going to hopefully be able to get back to where we need to be in a minute. But, you know, there are some names here. There are some things that we're going to look at here. Jason Static here in the house this evening. Another name that's a very familiar name in the past of one Jeremy Lightfoot. Used to drive him around. Brent Plumley here talking about him. We're going to go ahead here in just a minute. And we're going to have Lightfoot back here in a second. Now, hold on just a second here.
Yeah, forget the fancy background and stuff. If I'm closer to the Wi-Fi thing, I'm much better, and I can hear you guys a lot better now too. So
cool.
Well, you know, Jeremy, that's one of the things here tonight. You know full well at the Wrestle Talk podcast, we are here to not only give the wrestlers an opportunity, but to give the fans as well. And I want to throw something out here at you. You talk about Crazy Kid Curry, and I want to bring up something here. We're going to kind of, you and I talked about this earlier. There's going to be some kind of this is your life kind of moments. But one thing I want to show you here as I'm bringing it up here from Big Jim Harris down at South Broadway.
Okay.
So,
as you can see on the bottom of the screen, I know a lot about Jeremy, LOL, some of which we can't post on here. So,
he's not wrong. He is not wrong. There are so many phrases of Jeremy Lightfoot. There's the personal Jeremy Jones. Ooh, he just used the real name. There's my personal life, which a lot of you guys know. Then there is my crowd life, where, you know, I'm the wonderful baby face, take your vitamins and all that. Then there's the locker room Jeremy, and we can't talk about a lot of the locker room Jeremy because I would probably get canceled in many states and many podcasts, and hell, I could probably be arrested for a lot of shit too. But
that's how you know
well, I'm going to tell you right now, Jeremy, after being at CAC and hearing some of the stories that we had an opportunity to be a part of, like I said, I've been around you many a time, and like I said, we'll kind of keep those for another day and another time. But I want to go ahead here real quick, and while we're kind of taking a trip down memory lane here, I want to bring one more up here, and we're going to go back to talking about your early days here in just a minute. But this is another name that I want to bring up here. I want you
and
to
I'll
be able
answer
to
Kid Curry once we get back to it, because I made it sound like it was going to be something bad that I was going to say. I actually love the guy to death, and that's what I meant. What do you mean by do you want shoot or work? Wrestling him was an amazing thing because he used to overanalyze. He cared so much what the fans would see that planning a match with him, it would be a 15-minute match, and it would take 15 weeks to put it together because he wanted the fans to have the perfect match.
There's a little bit of over planning you can do for a match. I've never put a match together, but I'm pretty sure that
with Kid Curry, there was no such thing as over planning.
Well, you know, Jeremy, as you talk about the life of a Kid Curry, one that I've got to look out here, and again, you talk about everything technologically related. I want to bring up a message that we had earlier on here too, and you talk about your early career, and I want to throw another one up here for you. And again, hopefully this will cooperate with us here, and if not, Chris, there we go. I've known Jeremy for 20 plus years, have traveled with my late hubby and now my son, Damien. I want to go ahead. We talked about how to a certain degree, we want to kind of not necessarily pull back the curtain, but I mean, again, you've made an impact on a lot of people in your career. What is it like to have been on the road with, in this case here, 2 generations of the Blackwell family?
The wild thing is when you look at Damian Blackwell, an amazing athlete for somebody his size to move like a lightweight. But the wild thing is when I'm in the locker room with him, I look at him and I go, man, I've changed your diaper. I slept in the same bed with your father. You know, It's wild to see him and Austin, because we used to have pictures of them playing in the ring, and now they are both giants. I can't believe that him and Austin are both 6'2", 6'3", 240 plus, when I remember them as two babies that I could barely hold in my hands. Time flies when you're having fun, and the road with all the families and all the generations was a hell of a lot of fun. It definitely was.
You know something, Jeremy, you bring up a real good point. And again, we're going to have a lot of time to just kind of sit and reflect and talk about wrestling, but talk about life as well. I remember back when Austin was born, and I remember when Damian was born, and just the idea, you could just tell from that point in time, when you sit down and talk with Izzy, and you could just tell that there was something there. And to see it come full circle really is something that's amazing, that you can have that opportunity to see your own son getting ready to really make his own mark in the world of pro wrestling.
Well, having Jen Richmond in the room, I'm going to do something that's going to make her laugh and make her cry. When Austin and Damian were in a hotel room, and Izzy kept saying, man, this is going to be the future tag team. This is going to be the future tag team. And Harsh agreed. And back then, that was in Iowa. And we would sleep 9 to 10 wrestlers in a hotel because we were all cheap bastards. And, Gabe's laughing, brother. I'm telling you.
I go to lots of conventions. So, we got 6 people in, a bedroom for one. Trust me.
Oh, yeah.
I think I'll fit into wrestling pretty well. I know what it's like to work on a budget.
Oh yeah, we would draw straws who got the beds, and that didn't mean you got a bed yourself. That meant you were sleeping with somebody that pulled the first long straw. But anyway, so Izzy's sitting there, and he's stroking his chin, and he's in deep thought. And I said, Izzy, what the hell are you doing? And he goes, well, I'll tell you, kid. My son's name is Blackwell and yours is Lightfoot. We're going to put them together. They're going to be Blacklight, baby. Yeah. And they were going to be the tag team of Blacklight. So,
that name alone. I love it.
And of course, Harsh pointed out in the low budget hotel that we were staying in that it probably wasn't a good idea to mention Blacklight because there was no idea what we were sleeping on.
there might have been some bodily fluids on that bed.
Yeah,
and not from the wrestlers. Not from the wrestlers this time.
Not in Iowa, no, man. Every time I was promised action in Iowa, we didn't get it. We were sleeping with wrestlers.
And on that note, we're going to go ahead and we're going to move on here because, again, Jared, we're going to get to a point where we may wind up having to put the unedited version through social media. I'm going to go ahead and throw things over to my broadcast colleague, Chris Rodell, because I know Chris has had an opportunity to follow your career just like I have. So Rodell, I know that you've really become the voice of CHWA. You've had an opportunity to follow Jeremy's career. I want to throw things over to you.
I want to ask about someone that recently has departed. I want to talk about the importance of Frank Reed in your career. What was you're not gonna, please don't cry on me. What was
I can't make any promises. Luke told me I might cry on this.
What did he mean to your career? Because he gave so many people in the St. Louis area a start. I mean, I believe at one point Luke got a start from him with Frank Reed. And so every wrestler after he passed away is like, yeah, he put me on the card for the first time. He gave me a shot in the pre-show, I mean, but just what did he mean? What does he mean to the St. Louis wrestling community?
If I had to sum up Frank, not necessarily for the wrestling community, but for myself, if I had to sum that man up in one word, that word would be father. I was 14 when I got introduced to the wild world of independent wrestling through Freddie Jack Funkhauser, who is now a referee. Him and I went to middle school together, and his father, who is also passed on, Billy Jack Funkhauser. He he invited us to a show, and it was at the time CSWA, Central States Wrestling Alliance, and that's where I met Frank Reed. And I started helping take down the ring, and then he would come and pick me up, and I'd go on the road with him as a 15-year-old boy. And I just kept telling him that it had been my lifelong dream to become a professional wrestler, and that man made it happen. There wouldn't be the name Jeremy Lightfoot if not for Frank. He named me. There wouldn't be a Native American gimmick for me if not for Frank Reed. Frank saw potential in a 15-year-old that none of the other professional wrestlers saw until later. Frank put me in there with guys that were safe, that he knew would teach me how to bump and be safe. He was like a second father, which is not knocking my father. It's no secret. Everybody now knows that Doc Lombardi is my dad. He's been a hell of a dad for the 42 years I've been alive. But when I was on the road and Doc couldn't be there, Frank was there. He was the heavy hand when I needed a smack in the ass, and he was the heavy arm that was there to lift me up when I needed to. I think about Frank every day, and I miss that man more than anybody will ever know.
I bet you wish that he could probably be there this Saturday. I mean, if anyone,
I'm a very spiritual man, and I already know that he will be.
Oh yeah, yes, he'll be there watching over us. So, but yeah, he's just meant so much to certain people. In the wrestling world, and I've gotten to know you pretty decently over the last year and a half that I've worked with CHWA, and seen you go from your championships to teaming with Waylon, and there are three iterations of the Warriors.
Yes, there is.
How is each three different from each other?
And you're right, all three were very different, and it was very hard to adapt. The original Warriors, myself and Jake Prater, man, I felt sorry for anybody's chest that got in the ring with us, because if anybody chops as hard as I do, it's Jake. And Jake is the type of person that he will sit in the back and he plays with his hands. And you can tell, and he'll look at me and go, if they step out of line, I'm getting them, and then you get them. That man wants to hurt somebody's chest. With him, it was more brutal and power. With Angelo, it was more mental. How can we break this person down? How can we do this and how can we do that? With Waylon, it was a passing the torch, so to speak. I saw a big guy with potential, and I thought, let me show this man how to tag, because he had been in tag teams before and he wasn't really catching it. And I knew there was a way that I could talk to Waylon to explain to him, okay, this is when you tag out, this is when you tag in, this is when you sell, this is when you don't. And all three of them made my old butt feel young again. They brought that life back to me. And I love all three of them for that.
And you can see how far Waylon has come, because Waylon made his debut a couple of weekends ago at the Cinco de Mayo Festival for Dynamo Pro Wrestling. So he's wrestling on the Missouri side. So when it comes down to it, and Angelo's working for Dynamo as well now too. So I mean, so you'll have a legacy there. Plus, we already know with Austin, and then with also Maddie as well. You're gonna have a legacy in St. Louis. You're not gonna be forgotten. So.
Well, that's like I told the guys, and you were both there for the Warriors' last show. It was the last time anybody was ever going to see my rendition of the Warriors, because I hope that Waylon and Jake and Angelo and Austin and even Maddie take the Warriors to a different level. Just because I'm not there, this is the last shirt of the Warriors that represent me, but it doesn't mean it's the end of the Warriors. When I told them, please don't let that name die. And I've told Austin and Maddie the same thing. Please do not let the Lightfoot name die. And that's my view on that.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I think there's gonna be. There might be a few tears on Saturday. I'm already kind of predicting that. So I'm gonna send it over to my colleague Gabe. Gabe, you have a question for Jeremy?
Well, I want to start just, as somebody who's still new to your career. I'm not in the area. I'm down in Florida, so I do try to.
You're fine.
In the promotions.
We're indies, brother. You don't need to apologize at all. Even with all the power of the internet, indies are indies. That's no offense taken whatsoever.
So I just want to say, what were your biggest? I don't want to say inspirations because it's so cliche, but I guess I just want to ask, what was your start in wrestling, so to speak? Not just how you got started in the business, but more so, what were your beginnings in wrestling? Did you watch it on TV? Did you know anybody who was a wrestler?
Oh yeah.
And then
there's
snowball.
Absolutely, man. I've been a professional wrestling fan since I was old enough to walk and talk. One of my earliest memories, and I'm going to mention a place, like you said, you're down in Florida, but Luke and Chris will know. One of my earliest memories, I was about 4 years old. My dad used to take me down to the Checker Dome, and we would watch the NWA. And I would bear in mind, 4 years old, I was maybe 2 feet tall. And it was the Legion of Doom versus the Midnight Express. No, I'm sorry. Screw that. The Road Warriors. I'm not WWE in it. It was the Road Warriors. Okay. And
wow,
I could barely see. And I remember my dad grabbing me, and I might get teary-eyed with this memory because it sticks really deep in my head. He grabbed me by the hips, and as he was picking me up to put me on his shoulders, and pardon my French, he said, "Holy shit, Jeremy, look, Animal's got a chair." And when he sat me on his shoulders, I watched Animal smoke Bobby Eaton, and I was hooked. When Bobby came up, blood was spitting, and I was in awe. I got to watch guys like Sam Houston, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. I got to watch Sting and Great Muta from the third row at 6 years old, and marked out like a son of a bitch when Muta went to spit the mist and Sting blocked it with a chair, put the chair down, shook his head, and cracked him. I got to listen to Ric Flair's chops from 4 rows back at the Checker Dome. But let me give you some more insight of how cool the Checker Dome was. Gorilla Monsoon bought me a hot dog while waiting in the concession stand, because back then the wrestlers got concessions at the same place that the fans did. Harley Race, after the show, would flag my dad down because he recognized my father, because my dad did the plumbing at the Checker Dome, and would always ask, "Is the liquor store up the street still open?" Because it was the only 24-hour liquor store in St. Louis.
Get out of town, Harley.
I believe that liquor store is still there, though, too. I don't think it's.
It is. I actually drove in that neighborhood this week.
It is called Arena Liquor, and it is still there. Yes.
Get a sponsor.
But
Arena.
Some of my claims to fame, I saw people had mentioned earlier that Randy and Bob are going to be in town. Unfortunately, they're going to be in town on a night of my retirement. But one of my claims to fame is if you go to Wikipedia and you look at Randy Orton, or you type in who trained Randy Orton, my name is in the top 4. I was one of Randy's trainers. So that's a claim to fame. Local legends like the Butcher, I was one of his trainers. The old tag team, the Russians, Hammer and Sickle, I trained them. I trained Playboy. A lot of the guys that grew up in this business, I helped in some way. That's my legacy. Not only is Austin and Maddie my biological legacy, but the legends who are future Hall of Famers are my legacy.
Well, Jeremy, I want to throw something out here real quick, and we're going to go back to Gabriel in a minute. You mentioned Damian Blade, and yes. I said, this is your life, my friend. Right now, I want to go ahead and bring up something here real quick, and we got an opportunity to hear from Damian Blade. I wanted to go ahead and give you just a brief transcript of what was here, and we're going to kind of read as we go along. I met Jeremy Lightfoot at 15. I was 20. You were traveling with Central States Wrestling at the time, learning the ropes with your dad and Frank Reed. Honestly, you taught me a lot. Even as a teenager, you taught me a lot of things. I'm forever grateful. I always consider you one of my trainers. I'm thankful for that friendship. You're a great person, especially having a locker room. You're a locker room leader. You're great in the ring. The wrestling world's going to miss you a great deal, being from Damian Blade. And I wanted to make sure that we shared that with you because, like you said, Damian Blade, and all the times I've come in contact with him, we talk about training and pro wrestling. Your name always comes up. And like I said, that is just one of the many facets of the legacy of Jeremy Lightfoot that we're going to see. Now, Gabriel, I'm going to go ahead and throw things back to you because I got to do a little work. I got to make sure that Jeremy Lightfoot gets some more. We got plenty more of those messages coming for you, Jeremy. The chat has been going off the hook all night, and it's all for you, my friend.
Thank you. And Gabriel, not to cut you off, brother, but to Damian, that meant the world. Thank you, sir. I love you so much, brother, and I can't wait to see you on the 18th. Go ahead, Gabriel.
By all means, man. I'm glad you have the opportunity to share this moment with people that kind of memories of wrestling as fans. That's cool. I guess to build off of that, I mean, are there any notable names? Like, are there any fans that went above and beyond? Like, because I would imagine there's a lot of people that they always, especially in the local scene, they're in the front row right there.
Oh yeah,
they're my family.
Yeah.
Any standout stories you might have with them, or just in general? I mean, any other?
Oh God, yeah. Yeah. In the indie world, there's fans, there's Uber fans, and then there's family. And family is not blood. The one family that sticks out is Peggy Minder. And we refer to them as the Minder clan. Mm-hmm. Peggy has been to every Jeremy Lightfoot show since 1998. The woman has not missed one. Her and her brother, her and her husband, they've always been there. Peggy can tell you every title I've ever held. I remember once when I claimed that I was the MMWA heavyweight champion one time, she reminded me, no, you also won it in East Carondelet. I forgot. Without fans like Peggy, but there's so many now. We got recently Kay Bradford, an amazing fan. Her and her daughter are at every CHWA show. They know all the workers. They're friends with the workers. They can tell you what's going on in the ring more than we can. Then you've got fans that became part of the show. You got Linda, the medic, who went to school to learn to be a medic for us, and the woman is amazing at what she does. You got Jen Blackwell, who also takes care of us, and a great educated masseuse, and gets us all warmed up for the matches. So the fans that are closest to us, the guy's name is escaping me right now, and unfortunately that happens when you get old, but he is on my Facebook. Him and his son come to every CHWA show, and no matter how many times this kid will come up to me, he's got a notebook, and he hands me a fresh piece of paper out of that notebook each time. Well, one day I scrolled through that notebook. He's got like 50 Jeremy Lightfoot autographs. He wants a new one every time. The indie fans, I will make a special shout out to the CHWA fans because I have a CHWA Legends contract and I love that company with all my heart. But the indie wrestling fans are at their top right now. Shaft's daughters, they are at every event. They will boo, they will cheer, they will love you, they will hate you, but from bell to bell, they are encapsulated. Their mother, Pam, will do anything for any company and not want to get paid. You need me to sell 50-50, I'll walk around and sell 50-50. You want me to take pictures? I'll take pictures. In St. Louis, the indie fans are the greatest fans of all time.
Yeah, Shaft's kids. Also, they call for blood a lot too. They want people to bleed. And
Yeah. Oh, if I had $1 for every time they chanted "Make Lightfoot bleed," I wouldn't have to wrestle this last match.
Oh man.
Luke, I know you have some more, some well, because we put out kind of the bat signal for what well wishes. So,
Well, I'm going to throw another one out here, and this is a name that actually two names that one Jeremy Lightfoot's going to be very familiar with, and it's very simple, but very heartfelt.
the Lumberjacks.
Wow. Nice. Abe and Gabe.
One of those
Love them
tag
both.
teams that definitely you remember in the world of pro wrestling is wrestling the Lumberjacks. The other one is going to be pretty lengthy, but this man asked me, and again, as you talk about in the world of professional wrestling, there's a brotherhood. There's an understanding of when you step inside that ring that you know what to expect. And this one's going to be a little bit, but I want you to hear this one. Jeremy Lightfoot has a love for a professional wrestling business that exceeds words. When I started refereeing with CHWA, he was one of the people that made sure that my son and I felt like we belonged. He's a natural teacher, and he's done something in this business that every wrestler should strive for. He's leaving it in a better condition than he found it. We love you, Lightfoot. That's Aaron the ref. And I want to throw one more at you because this one really shows how much of an impact you've made in the industry. And bear with me here just a minute. I want to make sure that I get this all taken care of. And for the viewers, this one is very important as well. I've known Lightfoot since he was a teenager. I can't quite put my finger on it. Lightfoot had the it factor and was gifted in his grasp of the game. It goes on to say, Tony Costa, Herb Simmons, Frank Reed, and many others thought the world of this fine man from a young age and smiled proudly as he reached the top of the roster. Hold on 1 second here. Okay, come on here. He captured championships wherever he went. He has a connection with the crowd. To meet him and watch him in action will almost instantly make you a fan of his work. With that said, it saddens me to see him passing the torch because he's in no way riding off into the sunset. He's taking his place into the prestigious history of St. Louis wrestling. His impact will be felt for years to come via stories from his peers, fans, video footage, and more. For your sacrifices, for the blood you shed, for the ups and downs, and for just being you. Honored to be your brother in the business, and even more honored to be your friend in everyday life. I love you. That coming from Tim Miller. Now,
An amazing commentary, an amazing mind for the business. Wow. I'm gonna pull the curtain back a little bit, Luke. When we were talking before the podcast started, and I told you I was really nervous about people writing in because I thought to myself, man, people are gonna try to make this a work. People are gonna try to keep me in. I apologize for arguing that with you because I'm humbled by everything that you've just clicked on. Aaron the ref, him and his son Dawson, two amazing people. He's become an amazing ref, an amazing student of the game. I'm not going to pull the curtain back too far, but his son, who is also going to be a great accomplished wrestler when he's actually old enough to do it. Wow. That's all I can say is wow.
I'm gonna pull it a little bit farther back. Aaron's always had an opportunity, and I've known him now for a few months. He always comes to me looking for advice. He always comes to me, how can I be a better official? And again, having people that can have that opportunity, I mean, it really makes you feel good. Now, Jeremy, you and I have been friends a long time.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to tell you right now, this next one, it took some work. And when I told Chris Rodell, we're actually going to show you a video. Okay? And when you see this video, I need your word right now, with the Wrestle Talk family as witness, that you will not hurt me at Mayday.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I hurt you to the day after Mayday?
That could work. But at this point, I want to give you another well wish, and I'm hopefully this will come out the way I'm hoping, but from a very unlikely source.
Jeremy Lightfoot, wow. You and I have battled out for the last 10, 15 years in this business, doing whatever we could to get that crowd going. and something that we were known for, being hardcore without the weapons. I'll never forget the opportunity that we had in Pacific, Missouri, and I guess it was an old hockey arena, and the management there said that, hey, I'd like to see someone try to knock this down. I bet you guys can't do it. So you and I both looked at each other and said, okay, we'll take that bet. We'll take that bet. So what happened? You threw me head first into the shields. I threw you body first into the shields. Kept doing that for, I don't know, a good 5-10 minutes, but we could not knock those things down. We could not break them. But then we ended up getting in trouble because we were two lightweights at the time and should not be wrestling like that outside the ring, fighting like that. We're supposed to be fighting inside the ring. But guess what? We survived that. We stood up. We kept on going, doing our thing. You had a great career. Lightfoot, I didn't even realize you were able to move the way you were able to move. So some of the matches I've seen from your past, it's like, wow, I didn't even know Lightfoot could do all that. Because you and I, we basically just beat the crap out of each other. We never did no fancy moves or anything. No chain wrestling. We just beat the crap out of each other. So much respect for growing me, and I hope I was able to do that for you as well in your career to help you grow in this business, to look further out than what we had or what we knew or what we were taught. We went beyond that. So Lightfoot, I always say O'Shea rules, but Lightfoot, you rule. Thank you. Thank you for being in this business. Thank you for giving me my matches. Thank you for making me better than I was. Thank you.
All right.
Wow.
You heard it right there, Lightfoot. The man who in many circles is known for being a fan of Meatloaf and a spokesperson for Meatloaf, the one and only the Irish Devil, Doug O'Shea.
Doug O'Shea was my very first feud. He was my very first, as we say, behind the curtain marriage. Doug and I wrestled all over the state of Missouri, all over the state of Illinois. I think we even went into Iowa at one point. But, man, if the fans don't know now, that's the real Doug. That's the Doug we know and love. That's the guy that we get annoyed when fans get mad at him. They're like, oh, that guy's a jerk. No, he's playing a heel very well. That's the Doug I know. And yes, I love that man to death. He made me, I made him, but together we made a lot of money and gained a lot of fans.
And Jeremy, to give you a little bit more too, just to show you the idea here, and this is pretty lengthy as well, but as you see here, it talks about the blood, the sweat, the tears, the honors of being in the ring with people, and being there with the likes of a Billy Diamond, John Blackheart, Mama Love, Tara the Irish Terror, Phil E. Blunt, just to be there and have those names that we know are going to potentially be in the crowd for May Day. I got to tell you, this is becoming, simply put, is going to be a monumental event for a variety of reasons. Now, I do want to, and we've talked a lot about it, I want to take a minute and talk about your journeys into Iowa, because I want to level with the viewers of the Wrestle Talk podcast. There were many wrestlers that I would have loved to have the opportunity. I mean, you and I think it's Fast Eddie, you and the Beast, you and Harsh, you and Izzy Blackwell. As a matter of fact, I want to throw another brief one out here. Somebody and Rodell. When I bring this one up, I think you're going to be surprised. Another man from the past. This is your life, Jeremy Lightfoot. Congratulations on a great career. Love the miles we traveled and the chats we had. Just remember one thing, Frog Splash. Love you, brother, from Chris Snide.
Okay, I got to explain the Frog Splash, because he does this on every post on Facebook, and I never explain to anybody what he means by Frog Splash. Okay, short story. I used to go up early to Iowa. We would leave for a Friday. We'd have the show on Saturday. We ate breakfast on Sunday. We'd go home. I'd go up Thursday night because I wanted the hotel room to myself, at least once. This particular night, I was still married to Alexis, but she couldn't make it. So her brother and his wife went with me. This is their first experience with pro wrestling, and my stupid ass takes them to Iowa, of all places. And I've got my best friend Dank with me, who you guys remember used to wrestle as Arson, and then without the mask, he was Buddy Rich. So the four of us go up. We're having a good time. We have a great dinner. At 3:30 in the morning, Thursday night, Chris Snyde goes to a bed with two people in it that he's never met, and he goes, "Hi, I'm Chris Snyde. Don't say nothing." Stands on their bed. I'm in the other bed with Dank, and this sumbitch frog splashes me at 3:30 in the morning, runs out of the hotel room and goes into his other room. I have a sleep problem where I can talk, drink, eat, do everything in my sleep and not remember. So the next day I wake up and I'm all yawning and stretching, and my brother-in-law is staring at me like this. And I said, "What's wrong?" He goes, "Who in the blank is Chris Snyde, and why did he step on my wife at 3:30 in the morning to jump on you?" And all I could say was, "Welcome to wrestling and welcome to Iowa."
Oh my!
Oh God!
Well, you know something? I got to share one more too, Jeremy, and you know this. I remember one of the first times, and again, that was nothing new for Chris Snyde. I remember there was one time we went to an event, and Steve Murphy was putting it on. I think Rodell may have been there, and I remember seeing just the sheer terror in the ladies' eyes, because everybody would bring something to eat, and we'd have it'd be an experience, a family bonding time, if you will. And I remember watching him, and this was back when he had his dyed hair, and I don't remember what color it was some weird color. And he's walking into a White Castle and says, "I want 80 White Castles." And the lady's joking. She thinks he's joking. He's got the weird hair and the weird look and all that, until he plops the money down on the counter. I've never seen the look of terror when Chris is going out there and buying 80 White Castle hamburgers and then just proceeds to devour as many as humanly possible and wonders why his stomach was bugging him later on. But again, that's one of those, again, your reach is literally all over the place when it comes to professional wrestling. And again, we're looking here. I want to throw a real quick one too, Doc Lombardi. And just to let you know, if I'm not mistaken in that picture, that is Crazy Kid Curry, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. Correct, Jeremy?
After tomahawk to the head, yeah.
After Jeremy teamed with Ron Powers, that's another one that was definitely a memorable time. But I do want to take a minute here, and I know that we've been having fun. I know that we've been looking at your career. We're going to come back to it here in a minute, but I want to take a minute, and I want to look at CHWA. Now, you and I have been in countless promotions. We've been all around the Midwest. I mean, again, I remember the only time that picture reminds me of anything was a match you had with Stephen Kennedy when you were wrestling in Mid-America Extreme.
I missed that because you're cutting out. If you can redo it.
Okay, well, it's one of those where you remember in Mid-America Extreme, the only time I've seen anybody ever bleed that much.
Get out of it.
Oh, hold on. It's probably my side this time now.
Let's see if that helps.
Oh, you're unfrozen now. You were frozen for a second.
Okay. Well, I remember the only person I've seen ever bleed that much from a match with you was Stephen Kennedy when you were wrestling for Mid-America Extreme.
I'm only getting bits and pieces of it.
All right, Chris, take it away.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Jeremy? He's buffering now.
Okay. Well, you know something, guys? Right now, for those that are here, and I want to say thank you to everybody who's been going in here and putting up the messages. I mean, while we're getting the technological issues taken care of here, talking about breaking Izzy Blackwell's girlfriend's arm.
I'm back.
We talked
sorry about that. I lost internet connection, so I missed all of the stuff you said about CHWA.
Okay, well, as I said here before, I mean, I've had the opportunity to see you be in some wild matchups in the day. I mean, you had the picture with Crazy Kid Curry. I saw some matches in Mid America Extreme where you had some wars with the likes of Spoiled Stephen Kennedy, like Joker. I mean, countless other people. But I want to take a minute here, and Chris is going to probably have a good follow-up question here afterward. What draws you, a man with countless years of experience, a wealth of knowledge, what draws you to CHWA?
Because to me, and it's funny you asked that. About 2.5 years ago, Chris Exodus asked me the same thing, and I'm going to answer it the same way. When I first started in this business, I was too young to wrestle, according to the state of Missouri. That's why I was the youngest licensed wrestler in the state of Missouri at the time, because my parents signed a waiver that I could wrestle at the age of 16, 2 years before I was supposed to. When I saw CHWA, I saw the same thing. Kids that had a dream, but they were dreaming now, and they had talent now. And the fact that some of them, they didn't have jobs at the age of 15 and 16. They didn't have jobs. They couldn't get into proper schools. They couldn't get into proper companies, because it's almost like the Alice Cooper song. I can't get a job because I don't have a car. I can't get a car because I don't have a job. I can't get a house because I don't have a car that I don't have a job. And it was a vicious cycle. But these kids had a ring and they had a dream. And there was a bunch of vets. I'm not going to say that they were screwing them over, but they weren't helping them. They were helping themselves. And I thought, if this is my last stretch and these kids are going to be my legacy, I'm going to make sure that they get up there with the likes of Dynamo, with the likes of Broadway, with the likes of SICW. And I'm not tooting my own horn, because I had Sadie Blaze's help. I had Damian Butcher's help. A lot of Tim Johns, I had his help. I didn't do it alone, but damn it, we did it, because CHWA now is one of the top companies in St. Louis. And there are people working for CHWA now, even if it's a one-off shot, that 3 years ago were laughing at that company, saying them kids would never make it.
And Jeremy,
I can completely agree with that, because if you would have told me 4 years ago that I would have been a part of CHWA, I would have said that you're crazy. I don't, you know. But now I'm happy to be. I love being there. It's a great time.
And we love having you, Chris. You are an amazing announcer. And if you don't mind me getting personal here a little bit, I see your humbleness when somebody says you're an amazing announcer, and I'm you, sir. When I was ready to retire and it decided I was going to retire a year ago, you were the announcer. You are my Michael Buffer. You were the guy I wanted to announce my last match. Whether you worked for CHWA or not, I was going to pay whatever booking fee we needed, because you, sir, are an amazing announcer. Please never, ever forget that.
I appreciate it. I'm so happy to be a part of this match. It's going to be a small part, but it's going to be a part of it, and I'm happy to be there. So,
well, you know, Chris, I want to throw something else out here too, and I'm gonna level with some people here. A little bit of breaking news, and I'm not going to hit the sounder here. If you're going to be at Mayday this coming Saturday night, you're going to have Jeremy Lightfoot's last match. You're going to have Chris Rodell as the third man in the ring with the microphone. I'm going to level a little bit of scoop here, a little bit of breaking news. You're going to get to see Luke Roberts back behind the microphone doing commentary for this matchup. And I have one more surprise for you, Mr. Lightfoot. A man that you know very well, and you talk about taking CHWA to the next level, a man that you're very familiar with who's helped in that process. And I'm going to welcome him here to the show. I think this is his first time he's ever been officially on the program. Ladies and gentlemen, another second-generation individual in the world of pro wrestling, the one and the only Freddie Jack Funkhauser.
Wow.
Freddie Jack, you're
Freddie,
muted.
go on. You got to unmute your microphone, my friend.
Again,
There you go.
That's what happens when you get old.
Yeah.
Mr. Lightfoot, how are you doing, sir?
God, you know what? We're the same age, yet you're grayer than I am, but I still love you.
Hey now, stop it. Stop it. Mr. Lightfoot, yes. There will be no funking around on this Saturday during your match. Thank you, sir, for allowing me to be your referee and see you full circle from your beginning to your end. I definitely appreciate that, sir.
Well, let me throw it back at you.
Oh, God, no, please don't make me cry here.
If not,
there's going to be too much of that Saturday.
If not for Denise, Steven's beautiful mother. If not for, do you mind if I use a real name?
Go for it.
If not for Ray, Billy Jack Funkhauser. And if not for Steve, Freddie Jack Funkhauser, this interview wouldn't be happening right now. Those three individuals introduced me to professional wrestling. They introduced me to my father figure, Frank Reed. I am in forever the Hopples family's debt for helping make me what I am. And I love you to death, brother, no matter what.
I'll make sure that he's with us.
Please bring, yes.
I will have both mom and dad with us, and I'll probably set them ringside at the corner for you, sir.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you again, and congratulations. And again, I won't be funking around on this one.
Do I need to go to the store and get like some Kleenex boxes for the locker room?
Well, Kay has already said in chat. I seen earlier. Kay is bringing Kleenexes. I told her just buy a case. We're gonna need it.
And unfortunately, I haven't seen the chat, because I can't see the comments, but I'm gonna go back and look at all of them. So I'm not avoiding people. I'm just not tech savvy and can't read what everybody's saying.
So yes, Lightfoot again. I'm gonna hop off here. Thank you again. I will see you Saturday.
Thank you, brother.
And Jeremy, as we go from one to another, here's another one that's going to be kind of surprise to you. There will definitely be tears from Austin Lightfoot.
Yeah.
I got to ask you, how is it to you knowing that, again, and I know you've mentioned it, the idea of so many different generations and parts of the Lightfoot family all being able to come together to celebrate this landmark event with you this coming Saturday?
The wild thing is almost every member of the Lightfoot dynasty is going to be there. Doc Lombardi, which is my father, Austin Lightfoot, which is my son, Maddie Monarch, which is my daughter, Arson, which is basically an adopted brother, is going to be in attendance. My younger brother, Michael, is coming, and that alone is enough for me to give a star-studded 5-star match, because my brother never comes to a wrestling event, and him being there is going to just blow my mind. I'm not forcing it on my son. Do I want him to do it? Yes. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But if he does, I back him all the way. And I will tell the fans this is the last time you will ever see me wrestle, unless my son gets trained properly. In that case, I will come back to tag with him one time. Or if CHWA, and I am only saying CHWA, any other company comes to me saying they got this, I will not work for you. But if CHWA buys a second ring and wraps that sucker in a cage and does war games, best your bottom dollar, Lightfoot's coming out of retirement to whoop some ass in war games. Those are the only two ways it's going to happen, guys.
Well, you know something? I'm going to level with you. I've had the opportunity, and this is a name from the past. I remember many, many years ago, I had the opportunity to referee a match of yours in a cage that was brought forward by the renowned Colonel JT.
Yeah.
And I remember being in that match, and I'm going to tell you right now, Jeremy Lightfoot in a cage, you're going to be in for one phenomenal fight. And I want to throw a couple more here before I get back to Chris. Another one that was one of the first that was brought to my attention here.
There he is.
As we look at things here, as Gabriel comes back, Hold on 1 second here. Let me go ahead and pull this up. Hopefully it will cooperate with us. If not, I'll have to turn it over to Chris because I think this one is somebody a lot of people would not expect to be seeing from. Chris, hold on 1 second here. And of course, my feed's going to start having some headaches here. And I was also told, no, Jeremy, you cannot climb under the ring to fix the ring. That was from Mr. Funkhauser. You cannot climb under a ring. Chris, can you go ahead here? I want to go ahead and share the message. It's right after, if you look in the software, it was brought to us. It's right after Chris Snide.
Okay.
It's like 3 or 4 of them. If you can bring that up. This is one that's a name from Jeremy's past. I hope you go into retirement knowing that you have left a real mark on this business that you and I both truly love. You're one of my toughest opponents and at times one of my greatest allies at different places in what seems like different worlds. You and I were able to do some things at the time this business and the companies were in honestly need. I hope you realize your place was great and truly needed by so many in the pro wrestling world. Take time and enjoy life. Walk off into the sunset knowing you gave your all to something you loved and made it better by doing so. Love you, brother. And that was from Joker.
Wow.
Another man that you definitely made a huge impact on. And there's one more. And Chris, I think it's right after that. I have to share this because I've heard this story. Lightfoot's the one who gave me my wrestling name. A name I put on everything after I embraced it. He was an excellent and patient trainer. My fondest memory of getting to the business almost all include him, including getting me over my debut match. He always treated me with respect. He was my grandmother's favorite wrestler. I sometimes think she wanted to go see him instead of me. I'll be there this weekend at CHWA Mayday. I hope he goes out with a thunderous chop. The one and only Dexter Poindexter.
Wow.
I told you, Jeremy, I was going to find him. I was going to make sure that you remember you being on the Wrestle Talk podcast. And I got to ask you, seeing some of these messages from wrestlers that you've been in the ring with, how does that make you feel?
Old. Well, I mean, with Joker, I saw this big guy, and back then Joker loved to talk. And at first I was like, if I remember right, it was Neil Smith that we were working for. And he was like, I want you to do some things with this guy named Joker. And it was the first time I seen him. And the first thing I said was no, because I mean, Joker thought his stuff didn't stink, but man, we got in the ring and he showed me that he could hang. He could move like a lightweight. And then we went into Mid-America Extreme, which was a company that was owned by myself, Butch Fletcher, Doc Lombardi, and Harsh. And Butch Fletcher said, I want to do an English chain match, which is the old corner touch, which I hate the corner touch. I always hated that match, but I wasn't going to tell a promoter no. And Joker and I did 3 of them, and they were bloodbaths, but they were poetic. Nobody got killed. It was perfect. As far as Dexter, my God, I remember he came to me for training. And this kid couldn't have been but yay high and maybe that wide. Glasses and everything else. And like I said, I'm not going to curse, but I looked him right in his face and said, you're an effing nerd. And he was like, no, I want to be a wrestler. And I said, you're going to be a wrestler, but you're going to be an effing nerd. And as we were wrestling, he's picking up all the stuff and he goes, well, you said you got a gimmick for me. And even though it was a punk rocker's name, I remembered from Revenge of the Nerds, they had Dexter Poindexter. And so I said, well, you're Dexter Poindexter. You're going to come to the ring as a friggin' nerd. The kid took it. And instead of going, okay, I'm Dexter Poindexter, I'm going to do a crap gimmick until I find something new, this dude went out and bought stretchy khakis so that he could work, a stretchy button-down shirt so that it could stretch while he worked, a brand new laptop with wrestling software so that he could make it look like he was looking up his next spot. I'm going to use his real name because he doesn't work anymore, but Tim owned it. He owned that Dexter character. So I was very proud of him.
And you know something, Jeremy? The thing that made me feel good was the man was one of those where, and I've seen him on a couple of occasions, he wrestled with a pocket protector in his pocket, and he kept it in his pocket the whole match.
Yes, with pins.
That's true. That is true. And again, that's showing the legacy. Now, I want to show real quick here. I'm going to throw this back to Chris and to Gabe. There's a couple more messages I want to put out here for you, Jeremy. One of them is a name that a lot of people don't know, but I want to share this because of somebody that we're familiar with. Congratulations on a great career,
Mr. Bibbs. Yeah.
Another man that a lot of people didn't figure was going to have a long career. And again, through the work of a lot of wrestlers, yourself included, was able to make it to the very top of his of the roster that he was on at the time. Now, the last one. Oh, go ahead.
A lot of my high flying, and this sounds weird because, and I'm not saying this as an insult. People need to remember, Mr. Bibbs stood maybe about 5'7" and weighed close to 350, 400, if I'm not mistaken. He's a big guy. A lot of my high flying was taught to me by Mr. Bibbs because he was the perfect base. So anybody that was a fan of me in my teen years and my 20s, because there ain't no way in hell I'm flying anymore. But when I was a lightweight, Gabriel, I could do all that flippy kicky stuff, and it was thanks to Mr. Bibbs.
And you know something, Lightfoot, I go back to you talking about the time with Mid-America Extreme. That was one of, I would say, the greatest times that I ever had in the wrestling industry. Number one, because if you look at the training that a lot of wrestlers got, they were able to get the aerial offense of a Jeremy Lightfoot. They were able to learn the power game from a Harsh. They were able to get the mat psychology from the likes of myself and a Butch Fletcher and a Doc Lombardi, and they would get the complete package when it came to professional wrestling. And this last quote, and then I'm going to turn things over to Gabriel and Chris because I've taken far too much time here, and we still got we're like 2 minutes from when we're supposed to go off the air. But you know what? No, this is Jeremy Lightfoot's night. We're going to go as long as we feel comfortable and go. I want to throw this last one out here. Jeremy Lightfoot is one of the guys who overcame many obstacles in the business. Since he returned to the ring, he's had an impact on many of the young talent in the area. His career taught him a lot and has been sharing his skills. Best of wishes to him, SICW promoter, Herb Simmons. Now, I'm going to say this right now here, Jeremy. You had the opportunity many a time at South Broadway to be around a Herb Simmons, to be around a Tim Miller, to be around an Eddie Smith, to be around a Tony Costa. When you look at those names, and I just want to throw a little bit out here. When you look at, and I think Tim Miller touched on it earlier, what do you feel those promoters would say now, seeing 20 plus years in the wrestling industry and seeing what Jeremy Lightfoot has accomplished overall as a career?
There would be one phrase, and it would be Tony Costa that would say it. He'd look at me from my knees, because if we remember, Costa was only 5 foot tall. I told you so, kid. That's all they would tell me is I told you so, kid. I was always, and Tim Miller touched on it in his whatever we want to call those. I was never complimentary to myself. I thought I was never good enough, and I would always go to Ed Smith Sr., which the great Smith family is. I owe them a great deal. Keith, Kiefer's, Ed Sr., I mean, the great family. But I would go to the guys like Costa and Herb, Larry Matisick, and constantly going, guys, I don't have this. Why are you putting me in a heavyweight match? Why are you putting me in a lightweight match? Why are you putting me in there with this rookie that I can't lead? And all they ever told me was, you're going to do fine. And 26 years later, I can hear Tony in my head saying, I told you so, kid.
Very much so. And again, Tony Costa, we had the Tony Costa Memorial Battle Royal here this past weekend at South Broadway. And again, a very fitting a very fitting tribute to a man who gave a lot in the world of professional wrestling. Now, I am going to go ahead here real quick, and I'm going to turn things over to Chris and Gabe. But Gabe, you've talked about wanting to learn about pro wrestling and hearing some of the stories. We've got two here, and Jeremy, I'm going to step away here for just a minute, but I got two of them here. One is from Big Time Jimmy Harris. Referee a cage match with barbed wire in it. His shirt was full of blood. He was busted open. And the other one we got from Brent, who's a first-time viewer of the program. Ask Jeremy about the biker bar matches.
Shady Jacks.
I think there's plenty of story here. So I'm going to go ahead and pass things over to my broadcast colleagues here. I'm going to go ahead and find some more stuff here for you from all of the great viewers and fans and friends alike. And if you want to share some more, gentlemen, the floor is yours.
I vaguely remember the Shady Jacks.
I was going to say that honestly feels like a softball for me. Like, thanks, man, because I feel like that beats the question I was going to ask. So, Jeremy, let's build off of that comment that Skywalker showed us.
Okay.
The bar,
okay, so Shady Jacks, it was Brent Plumley who made the comment. He wrestled under the name Rage, and his tag partner, the late, great Mark Morton. God rest Mark's soul. I know he's watching over me. He was one of my trainers. And me and Matt Taylor, which was Special Delivery Matt Taylor, were a tag team, and we were up for the tag titles that night. We were supposed to lose, and the reason we won is because the girl that walked us out, bear in mind, Shady Jacks is a biker bar, and it's a 21 and up bar. A girl asked if she could walk the good-looking Indian and the good-looking other guy out, and we said, yeah. She told the promoter, if you put the belts on these guys, I'll wear them and nothing else. So sure enough, we won the titles that night. And I turn around and look. This woman has a tag strap around her chest and a tag strap around her waist. And when they announced us as the new champions, she stripped them off and handed her team the belts. Wow, Shady Jacks was a good show.
Oh man, that doesn't surprise me. I vaguely remember Shady Jacks, so I mean it's just one of those. There's
and a wild story quick for what Jimmy Harris had posted. He was the ref for this match. The reason if I remember right, the comment mentioned that I was busted open before the match started. I was wrestling Jeff Hawkins. And I told Jeff, since we're pulling the curtain back and there's no kayfabe, I said, I want you to walk up and put your thumb on the barbed wire and make it look like you ripped it, and then kind of sell that the barbed wire is real. And he goes, I can do that. And I said, then I'm going to show the fans how sadistic I am. And he goes, what are you going to do? I said, don't worry, wait till we get out there. Gabriel, if you have a weak stomach, I hope you can handle this. So Jeff walks up, he puts his thumb on the barbed wire, he rakes it across, makes it look like he opens himself up. I grab the barbed wire off the cage, I put it in my mouth, and I start doing a Gene Simmons, gigging my tongue, letting blood leak down my chest. Half the crowd cheered, the other half left. So that's why I was busted open before the match even started. I legitimately gigged my tongue to bleed before the match started.
Ouch.
Oh,
Ouch. Man.
That's an incredible threshold for pain.
So Aaron,
I wouldn't do it now, but
well, you were young. You were young back then. You did stupid things back then. So
exactly.
Aaron, the ref wanted to know if you had any stories about working for GCW, Gateway Championship Wrestling, not
the real GCW.
Right.
No disrespect to those guys, but the real GCW, Gateway Championship Wrestling. That company brought me to a whole new level. If not for the late great Big Bad Ben, if not for Evil Jim, Sadie Blaze, Rat Boy, Outcast, Billy McNeil, all these wonderful St. Louis names, Matt Seidel, Mischief, I would not have the skills that I had. These guys took the greatness of St. Louis wrestling that I had and said, we're going to introduce ECW to you.
Right.
I mean, working for GCW was an honor. It was the second highest honor I ever had in St. Louis. There was two of them that I ever wanted to do. I wanted to work for Broadway because Broadway was the creme de la creme. And I not only got to hold their lightweight title, I got to hold their tag title, and I got to hold their heavyweight title. But when I was called on the phone by Big Bad Ben and he said, I'm hosting a GCW invitational, I want you and Corey Twist to come. When me and Corey Twist, bear in mind, yes, wrestling has worked. We all know that. But this was decided by the fans. And at the end of the night, Delirious, who is the ROH trainer, who is now employed by AEW, I believe, because they own ROH. Huge name. And Billy McNeil, who is a huge legend in St. Louis. When Corey Twist and myself got a standing ovation that rivaled theirs, and Big Bad Ben said, you know what? Screw this trophy. I am hiring both of you guys on the spot. I was in heaven. I was now a member of the greatest wrestling company in St. Louis.
Yeah, I was out there and I didn't miss the GCW days. I see, obviously, I've got the tail end of it now with because it it morphed into
Dynamo, right?
Morphed into Dynamo, but yeah, just the names that were there, like Matt Seidel. I mean, was a trainer down there. Delirious, Mischief, Daisy Hayes, all of them. And we can never forget Big Bad Ben because
right.
I mean. He's been a part of a lot of people's lives. So let's kind of bring it a little bit back to Saturday. This coming Saturday. Obviously, you're wrestling Angelo Grimsley in your final match.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you choose Angelo for your final match? Because you said you picked me for the ring announcer. You picked Hopple for the Freddie Jack for the referee. Why did you pick Grimsley as your last opponent?
It was. When I decided about mid last year, I wanted to make it to John Holt Yo this year. But the more matches we did, the more my back was killing me and it wasn't healing, the more my knees. I told a very dear friend of mine, I said, there's no way in hell. So I need to pick a different date. So I chose May because that's when I came in to CHWA was on May Day. And so I sat and thought. There was a ton of guys in the locker room that I had never worked. I did not want to bring in a name. And when I say name, a St. Louis name that hadn't worked CHWA, I didn't want to bring anybody in that was on foreign territory. I wanted to, if I was going to be born again GCW or CHWA, I wanted to die CHWA. And Angelo is the definition of that statement because the guy came in a nobody. He knew wrestling as a fan. He didn't know it as a worker, and he did everything in his power to become a worker. And when he got into the business aspect of it, he did everything he could to make this business better. He ate, slept, and breathed CHWA. And I had only got to work him in battle royals, and then we tagged, so I couldn't work him then. And I thought to myself, he had mentioned it one day, maybe as a one-off joke. He's like, yeah, we never got to work. And I thought, why not? Why not? Let's pass the torch to this kid. He's only been in the business 3 years. Hell, I've been wrestling longer than Angelo's been alive. Why not? Time to pass the torch. I felt, and I by no means am I comparing myself to either of these gentlemen. I'm just saying how I felt. It felt like Andre the Giant passing the torch to Hulk Hogan.
Right. So it's gonna be a good match because it's gonna be, if I remember, it's gonna be 2 out of 3 falls, isn't it?
2 out of 3 falls. Anything goes.
Oh no! Does that mean there's gonna be blood? Are we gonna see some? We're gonna see some. Of course.
Since we're doing non-kayfabe, come on, Rodell, did you expect a Lightfoot match without blood?
That is true.
Come on, man. I'm queer for the gig, brother.
Oh, and And also on that show, we're going. This is completely outside of your match. However, I know you probably want to you want to talk about this. They're going to we're unifying the title because you had Chris Exodus who went away for a little bit due to injury, and so we had an interim champion. Mays was decided, we'll put it on the same show as Lightfoot. So we're gonna have Chris Exodus and Aleister Crow, and you and Angelo Grimsley. You've wrestled both Chris Exodus and Aleister Crow.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel that match is going to go?
To be honest, 50-50. 50-50. Both guys are hungry. Chris, coming off of all of his injuries, that man heals faster than a vampire that's been stabbed. He heals faster than after Brandon Lee got shot. I mean, the kid is phenomenal. But at the same time, you got Aleister Crow, who, despite what the fans think about him, this man eats, sleeps, and breathes this business. And for a big guy, can still go.
You had a little interaction with him in the beginning of the year. In January, if I'm not mistaken, it got kind of personal. So I mean,
it was a legitimate shoot, and I'm not going to say that we've fixed things because that would be a lie. But I'm going to be a man and state that he shut me up. He had said something and did something that me as a veteran didn't like. And when I made my opinion on it, he told me basically, you know nothing about this business. And when he said that, it went from, and I'm going to do him a respect, even though I shouldn't respect him. I'm not going to use his real name, but it went from Jeremy Lightfoot challenging Aleister Crow to Jeremy Jones calling out bleep, bleep to let's see who the real man was. And if not for Freddie Jack getting in the way, that was the 1 second that he needed to wrap that rope or whatever the hell it was he had and legitimately choke me out. Guys, this is a shoot. I'm telling you guys, the fans,
I was there.
This was not a work. They had an oxygen tank in the back for me. He literally choked me out to the point where I don't remember at least 2 minutes of what happened. And they had to put me on an oxygen tank, and I went against Linda and Jen's words because they weren't going to let me go out. They weren't going to let me clear. I actually tore through 2 security guards to get to the battle royal.
Mm-hmm. I was there.
Yeah. So the heat is by no means fixed. Do I respect the young man for what he does and what he's done in this business? Yes. But do I give 2 S's and an F about if he wins that title or not? Absolutely not.
Exactly. It's going to be top to bottom. It's going to be a really good night on May Day. So I know I know we're kind of getting near the end here. Luke, you want to come back on here so we can?
You know something, Chris?
How did we switch this?
It's magic. And I'm going to tell you right now, Chris, we're at 9:15. We've been on the program. And again, I want to give a shout out to all the great viewers of the Wrestle Talk podcast, all the great fans of CHWA, all the fans of professional wrestling as well. You know what, Chris? You don't hear this too much from me. And Jeremy, you and I know this from being in the ring. I look at it this way. Go as long as you want.
Thank you, brother. You know what?
That's exactly the way I look at it, man.
How many people? I can't see. How many people are watching this right now?
Right now,
43.
Okay, I want those 43 to vote because this is a legitimate shoot. I'm on the fence because I've got all the wrestlers telling me to take a final speech on Saturday. Do it. Talk as long as you need. Thank all the people you want. There's a bunch of personal people in my life that say, hey, moron, you talk way too much and nobody wants to listen to you babble after they watched your talentless ass wrestle a match. Sorry, that's how some of the personal people in my life feel. So I want the people in the comments. Be honest with me. And since I can't see the comments because I mentioned earlier that I'm not tech savvy, I want you guys to tell me, do you want a final speech, or would you prefer for me to simply take the boots off, bow, thank all of you? I'm still going to love you all at the end and walk out.
I'm going to put it this way, Chris.
My personal opinion, speech. I mean,
thank you, sir. Thank
Chris,
you.
I think we need to have a new pool here. Besides, and I agree. I think that you just definitely deserve your roses. But I think we should have a new poll on the Wrestle Talk podcast page. Who's going to talk longer, Luke Roberts or Jeremy Lightfoot after his last match?
Well, it's always going to be Luke Roberts because sometimes we can't get you to be quiet. So I mean, that's why we love you, sir.
Hey, I get you, man. If you look right here again, hopefully it'll Brent Plumley putting out there, put your boots off and leave. You got everything in your career. We got another one out here. Bear with me here. The technology is here, and we're going to get this working here. Another one to put up here. Come on. Okay, it might show up. It might not. We're looking at it here. Yes, please do it. You deserve it for all the blood, sweat, tears, and hard work you've put in for the past 26 years or 26 plus years. Again, right now, actually, surprisingly enough, we had it, and now we've got Doug O'Shea even chiming in. And I'm surprised he hasn't yelled at me because of the fact we talked about Meatloaf earlier on, but you should. So, I mean, again, we got a pretty good poll here of those that are saying what's there. And
well, I had a conversation with Sadie Blaze about it, and I was very skeptical. I said, Sadie, I don't want to talk if people don't want to hear me. And in wonderful Sadie Blaze fashion, I'm going to initiate it. But he said, F him. You've earned it. And we all know Sadie, so when he says that, you listen. So
I totally get you, Jeremy. And I mean, again, as you talked about before, with having all the family and the lineage, and I mean, so many people that you've had an impact on, both being across the ring, tagging with, training, guiding careers. I mean, you definitely deserve it. Now, I do want to go ahead and I want to throw a question out here. And I'm a level with the viewers here of the podcast. And Chris, if you want to yell at me later, you can. We're not young pups anymore in the business. No. I mean, Jeremy, you talked about it earlier in the interview. You're in your early 40s. Rodell and I are not in our early 40s anymore.
I turn 42 tomorrow.
And I'm just going to go out there and I'll level with you. I'm be 47 on Sunday. So
wow,
I get where you're coming from. But I mean, when you look at it, and Chris and I have talked about this. When you retire, when Saturday night appears, and I'm going to tell you, I've seen you in training. I've seen Angelo Grimsley in training, and I'm going to level with you right now, and I'm going to say it's Saturday night on commentary for those that are going to be listening to the broadcast and they're live. My prediction right now is simple. I see based on the match, I see on the training, I see on the dedication, I'm going to level with you. It's Lightfoot 2 straight. Right now, I got to say, I have not seen you this fired up in a good long time, and I'm going to tell you, Grimsley better be prepared because there is no way in the world right now, the Jeremy Lightfoot I've seen in the last few weeks, I don't think there's any way Grimsley can keep up. And it's not just because you're a guest of the program. It's because I've known you for your entire career. And I'm going to tell you right now, I see two straight.
I'll admit, from age of 16 to age 41 and 3 months ago, I never ever went and did anything with a gym. I naturally looked the way I was, and I've been hitting the gym hard. You know, Chris Exodus was on the show a couple shows ago, and he said that I'm in the greatest shape he's ever seen. My arms are bigger, my chest is bigger. I'm breathing a hell of a lot better. So I don't want to toot my own horn, but it's going to take a hell of a man to knock me off that mountain that I've climbed in the last 3 months.
And Jeremy, I'm a piggyback on. I don't think it's the last 3 months. I think it's to knock you off that mountain you've climbed the last 26 years.
Yeah, well, I mean, okay, like you said, all of us aren't spring chickens anymore. And one of the biggest things we always used to say in the business, and this was my son that said this to me, a 20-year-old kid. Well, he'll be 20 in September, but a 20-year-old kid said, "You guys always say never give them everything. This is the last time they're ever going to see you. Put every damn thing you got and then some on the table." And I'm going to take my kids' advice and I'm going to do that. I'm going to give them everything I got. And when I can't breathe, I'm going to somehow dig down deep, dig past them freaking tar-stained lungs from being a stupid ass and being a smoker for the last 41 years of my life. Yes, you heard that right, 41 years. And I'm going to find some more breath. And I'm going to keep going. I am not going to stop until either Angelo stops me or I stop him.
And Jeremy, I'm just going to level with you, man. That's one thing that I'm looking forward to at May Day. Granted, it's your final match, but you're going to leave it all out there, and I agree with you. The only way that Grimsley's going to be able, he's going to have to definitely put an exclamation point out there to get the victory.
I don't want him to kill me, but he's going to have to maybe put me on life support once I get in the back.
And like I said, I'm going to go ahead here because I know Chris and I have had a lot of time to talk with you. And again, the fans are speaking, Jeremy. I mean, they're appreciating everything that you've done in the business.
I love all
I'm going to go ahead,
Thank you.
And I want to throw the last one here to our broadcast colleague. Now, I hope you got his name right, Gabe. You've only had an hour and a half to get this taken care of and straightened up. We're going to give you the last say with Jeremy Lightfoot. So, Gabriel, the floor is yours.
Well, as somebody who's really trying to get into the business, it's awesome to have this opportunity to talk to you. I don't mean to throw that out there. So,
and you can message me afterwards. I will give advice even after I retire. So go ahead.
Please. I would love that opportunity. Thank you. But I guess I just want to have to ask what because I feel like Luke already kind of covered this, but I don't know, like, what's the thing that keeps you going? Like, you mentioned the fans, but I guess it's like, what is there a specific moment that you hold really near and dear, like the big one that you come back to? Because this is,
I have two answers. I have two answers to that. Perfect. And one is very personal. And like I said, I'm very spiritual, and people are going to think I'm weird when I answer this. But for those that believe in certain things, they'll understand. And the other one is simple. The simple answer that I'll give you is passion. I've loved this business since I was 2 years old. I've loved everything about it. The heels, the baby faces, the refs, the people that work in it to make it what it is, the people that do it justice for the business and not for themselves. That's one thing that kept me going. But the spiritual thing, my ex-wife's name is named after my real daughter. Maddie is a character, but I love Maddie like a daughter, but that's a character. She's not actually my daughter. But I lost a daughter 24 years ago to stillborn. And one night at the Broadway Training Center, and this is God's honest truth. I'm on the Holy Father and everything. I was at the Broadway Training Center, the old building down there on 7th. And I was fighting Billy Diamond for the lightweight title. And I did not think I earned it. I did not think I deserved it. And I was ready to quit until I looked over in the corner, and hey, I'm not BSing. The hairs are up. I looked over in the corner and I saw the sweetest, most beautiful little face with long black hair And she said, Dad, you can do it. Don't give up. My daughter spoke to me, my daughter's ghost, and I never did. I never gave up. And I'm not going to stop fighting in this match until I see that face again and she tells me, Dad, you've given them everything. It's time to go home. That's what kept me going. So I hate to be super sentimental, and yes, I teared up, but I did it for my daughter.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You gotta apologize, man.
No.
He says, hashtag thank you, Jeremy Lightfoot. Wow.
Yep.
I gotta build off of that. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
I mean, we're on a long road to 500, but if we have to have this whole episode, I think just talking another hour and a half, we could bust out another show.
Some of y'all can. I'm a little old in the tooth, but
Well, guys. I mean, again, this has been hands down. I've been around wrestling a long time. This has been, as Chris has said, as Gabriel has said, we've been going for 2.5 hours, and I'm gonna be honest. I felt like that I've just blinked, because this is what makes the Wrestle Talk podcast so unique. If you get an opportunity, I mean, we talk about local wrestling, we talk about national wrestling, but this gives you an opportunity to see what professional wrestling truly is. It's a brotherhood. It's a togetherness. It's a connection to everything that's important, why we love the sport of professional wrestling. And I said this earlier on in the broadcast, I cannot stomach the word sports entertainment. This is professional wrestling. As Jeremy said, this is what we grew up on. Like I said many episodes ago, I remember being 6 years old and sitting in my grandmother's house watching Georgia Championship Wrestling, and I had to be in the living room at 6:05 with my dinner, 5:05 for Central viewers. I had to be there 5:05 with my dinner, otherwise Grandma would never let me hear the end of it. And to have the opportunity tonight to kind of peel some layers back, to peel that curtain back with Jeremy Lightfoot. Jeremy, I'm going to tell you right now, as you said, Saturday is going to be your last stand. It's going to be your last match. And it's going to be my honor to call it. I know it's Chris is going to be in that ring to announce it. And I'm going to tell you right now, my friend, it's been a long road, but when the match is over Saturday, I'm going to say, hands down, you've deserved everything that you've gotten. You should be proud of what you've done. As many people have said tonight, you should be proud of what you've given to the wrestling industry. And as you said earlier on, your legacy will live on, whether it's your son, those that you've treated like kids, those that have been in the ring with you. You've done everything you can. And I just hope that come this Saturday, when it's all said and done, that you get exactly what you want out of Mayday.
You know, even if Mayday isn't what I desire, and it's a high bar, tonight has humbled me enough that if I retired tonight, my peers, my fans, my friends, my family, I feel accomplished. You were so right that I was going to love this show. I'm surprised I didn't cry as much as I did. I thought I was going to Ric Flair it through this whole thing. But all I ask is, I know there's a lot of shows in town that night, and if people already have tickets to other places, I don't hate you. But if you were a real St. Louis wrestling fan, and if you are a real Jeremy Lightfoot fan, I would be honored to have everyone there and pack that arena to say goodbye to everybody one last time.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you hear right here, and Chris, I know we've got it here. We've been saving it for an hour and a half. The only way that we can close out this interview with Jeremy Lightfoot, I think you definitely more than ever deserve, hands down, one more standing ovation before Saturday night. So can we go ahead, Chris? I know we've got it in the archives. Can we give Jeremy a fitting pro wrestling standing ovation? We're going to see here. There you go. That's a little more like it.
That's a warrior
Giving
pop.
Jeremy Lightfoot a proper round of applause here. And again, Jeremy, on behalf of the Wrestle Talk podcast family, we want to say thank you for everything you've done for professional wrestling. And I know for myself, Chris Rodell, the fans of CHWA, the locker room, we're very much looking forward to Saturday night. Edwardsville, Illinois, Edwardsville American Legion, CHWA Mayday. A lot of great matches. You're going to have Jesse J and Dion. You're going to have the CHWA title unification. But the match that many people have been talking about right here, Angelo Grimsley, Jeremy Lightfoot, 2 out of 3 falls, pretty much no rules. We're going to see exactly what's going to happen at Mayday. And again, we want to say thank you for coming on the program. And
Thank
again,
you,
we
guys.
look forward to seeing you this Saturday night.
All right, guys.
All right,
Thanks, and good night. I'll see you guys all Saturday.
All right, see you Saturday, Jeremy.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only Jeremy Lightfoot. And I'm proud of you, Gabe. You didn't call him Jeremy Lightweight. I'm very appreciative of that. You know, it's almost as much as the Maestro talking about Gilbert. I'm not going to let this one go. But when it comes down to it, guys, I'm going to tell you, this Saturday night, and Jeremy was right on point. This matchup is going to be one that fans are going to remember. You've seen it in the chat tonight. You've got Hall of Famers, past, present, and future of this industry are all converging on Edwardsville, Illinois for this Saturday night.
Yep, it's gonna be a great night. So, well, we do have to hit our sponsors one more time before we go because we are near the end of the show. Let me scroll up here.
As we're getting this ready, I've talked about the sponsors. You've talked about the sponsors. Gabe, you need to go ahead and take care of this right now because you're the only one that hasn't talked about them tonight.
Can do. So Wrestle Talk Podcast would like to thank our great sponsors, including Royal Mills Transportation, head by one CEO, DeJuan Mills, Nobleman's Barber Lounge, head at Kansas City, Missouri, Kincaid Arcade at Oak Park Mall, Interstate 70 Sports Media, Little Popeye Designs, that's where you can pick up your Wrestle Talk Podcast tumbler, and the FWWC, the world's premier fantasy wrestling group.
Well, gentlemen, I would have to say I think this was a pretty successful episode of the Wrestle Talk Podcast.
Chris, monumental is the word. We're on the way to 500. Tonight's show
482
definitely
tonight.
delivered. We're going to get there. We got a lot of people here. And again, as a reminder, make it a point. Let your friends, family know. Hashtag Let's Talk Wrestling. Hashtag WTP. Hashtag Thank You, Jeremy Lightfoot. And again, to give you an idea, if you get a chance, go to the CHWA Facebook page. And again, I know we're going to be having this event. Make sure to give a shout out to Jeremy Lightfoot. I mean, again, 26 plus years in the wrestling industry. He's been there. He's done that. And I got to say right now, hands down, this Saturday, it's going to be an outstanding show. Again, you want to buy tickets, you can buy them at the door. Doors open at 6, bell times at 7 o'clock. You're going to see Big Sexy Chris Rodell is going to be there. Luke Roberts is going to be there. Hopefully we can get him up here. We could get Gabriel Arsene to be there. But, I mean, again, he'd have to figure out how to get here first. Again, a lot of great things. Sponsors, thank you. All those that have tuned in tonight and given us comments, thank you. Without you, we don't exist. We don't keep going each and every week. So, gentlemen, I think right now on behalf of myself, the Road Dog, and Gabriel Arsene, this is Luke Roberts. We're going to see you right back here next Tuesday night for the Wrestle Talk Podcast. Take care and be safe, everyone.